This week on RSBANDB Update, Anachronia leaves Fossil Island behind. We talk about setting up the island, its stunning visuals, and accessibility concerns. We also talk about training Agility, Slayer, and Hunter on the island, plus little-known bits from Anachronia, and the big changes to the Hunter skill in general. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 732, recorded Thursday, July 11th, 2019. Fossil Island out of time. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for RSBANDB Update this week on the podcast. A monumental week, that is for sure. Tanis, you're here. Also, Parnassius, you're here. Welcome to both of you.
I am. Thank you.
So this week sees the launch of the Land Out of Time. This is that update that we first heard about at the tail end of December. They said for the summer we have something special for you guys that our team is working on. And lo and behold, here it is. In just a couple quick words before we dive deep into this, is the Land Out of Time special? Yes or no?
For me, yes.
Oh, right off the bat, Shane. Jeez. Right off the bat. It has its moments.
Okay. And
for me, they did the Robin Hood. They hit the bullseye and they fired another arrow and split it in half.
Well, that's really high praise for this update. So let's dive in. And, for anybody who is joining us for the first time, show notes are available at update.rsbnb.com. And what we want to do here is we want to just go through this update from top to bottom, and we're going to do that. And just a quick rundown on the top, this week we have Hunter, in particular, a rework of the skill, a new training method for that skill on Anachronia, an agility course that spans the entire island on Anachronia, and a bunch of new Slayer creatures as well, and lots of things that we weren't expecting in terms of game updates and new features that Jagex kept close to their chest. And I think we'll talk a bit about this and that why this was so important for them to pull this off successfully. But let's dive right in this week with the first cutscene when you get there, and this cutscene when you get there was definitely something, because it was part hybrid graphical design when you were on the boat, the Stormbreaker that we all built last week. But then when you get there, you experience this panoramic cutscene. It shows off various parts of the island, in effect, what you're in store for. And, in most games when they do these cutscenes, you would think that these are going to be rendered previously and played in rather than actually being rendered live in the game engine. There's games that do, of course, render them live in-game, and, RuneScape is one that has always done that. And just looking at this cutscene, I think this was the hook that drew everybody in, this cutscene to begin with. And the graphics.
Arriving on the island, actually, I did actually get a sense of wonder in a way. I'm not a huge fan of the graphical novel stuff, but I will take it just because there was some voiced stuff. Right. So I'll take it. Not a big fan of that, but getting on the island, I definitely was like wanting to find out what was over the next hill. For a while. Okay,
and we'll get to that when we.
See, on the opposite, that graphical novel style where they're reading, I just love that idea, because it gives you that sense. You can sit back, just look at the picture, have it read to you as an introduction, and I love when they do that type of thing. I thought that sort of, again, that just sort of really made it that much more special for me.
And it's so simple too. Both technically, because if need be, they can change it. It's not, reanimating a cutscene and making the characters' lips move differently. This is effectively creating images, splicing them together with a voiceover, and it just works. and you don't need to time things and whatnot. So graphical cutscenes starting with Desperate Times were definitely simple but effective. And when you arrive on Anachronia, did either of you guys have a chat with Mr. Mordeaux?
Yes. the best part of the entire update is what he said to me.
He says, the climate, the animals, the plant life, we are too far north for any of this to be viable. It's almost like it's from a different time period entirely. We can't call it Fossil Island anymore. That is for sure.
And that line there, we can't call it Fossil Island, is I was really disappointed when they brought out the event building the ship, because they're calling it Fossil Island, and after all this thing, we're calling it Anachronia, that they've avoided Fossil Island all this time. Last year when they said, no, we won't be bringing Fossil Island to RS3, all that type of thing, and then all of a sudden on the live stream, someone called it Fossil Island, and then, we're playing this event and it's called Fossil Island, and I'm thinking, you're kidding me. And it was like salt in the wound to me. I thought, it took away a lot of that excitement for me. But then when I got here and Mr. Mordeaux said that, it just put a huge smile on my face.
Yeah, and I talked about this last month. I thought they were doing it from a branding perspective, in that they wanted the brand to be distinct. But it turns out there's actually a reason for calling it something different entirely. And Sirion hatched this theory on the show a number of weeks ago that there's definitely something at play with the needle, and, hence the barrier of clouds that was around it and the need for the Stormbreaker. In terms of going through those clouds, the sense is that we're in a different time period from the rest of the world.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that and I think that is going to the way it does it. I'm more of the old school, the original King Kong, where it's surrounded by clouds and sort of it's kept its own climate and everything because of the cloud bank, and that's why it's like that. So for me, I think of it more as like the old original King Kong movie where you go in and all the dinosaurs are there, but it makes sense lore-wise, and I do think Sirion hit it on the head because of the Dragonkin taking the needle and such, that we have pretty much stepped through a time barrier type thing. Yeah,
and there are actually, if I recall correctly, on the island, there are Slayer creatures that, when you're hunting for them, temporal distortions can spawn, the same temporal distortions that we saw in Desperate Times.
Ooh, I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, or maybe it was one of the zygomites or something to that effect. But there was definitely a time, pardon the use of time, sorry, a temporal instability, not a temporal distortion. But temporal instability spawn and you can close them. So that is at play here. And the sense I want everybody to keep in mind is that as we move through this, you'll recall that we're probably not going to have the full story of this until we get the first quest on this island. Because if you look at this island, there are Dragonkin statues everywhere. And, this is in many ways, and this was effectively all confirmed to us, that what we're looking at here is probably that homeland of the Dragonkin, Orthan, that was mentioned in the quest, because the fallen city of Orthan is actually one of the tracks that you can unlock. And that's one of the things that I learned through discovering parts of the island. And we'll probably talk more about that later when we talk about the visual ambience and whatnot. But before we do that, I actually want to talk about the managing base camp aspect of Anachronia, because this is, in a way, kind of like player-owned ports, half player-owned ports, half managing miscellanea. Was that a good way of describing it, would you say?
Very good way. It's sort of version 2.0.
This was my favorite part of the island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like management type things, so yeah, I agree. It's not my favorite part, but it's a totally very enjoyable part of it for me.
So the way it works is that you start off with 10 workers and you assign them to gather resources. The first thing you build is the town hall, and over time you can upgrade, for instance, the sleeping quarters to get more workers. And every 10 minutes they gather workers. And it'll say that, for example, at 3 it's gathering 180 per hour, but you gain resources every 10 minutes. So that, if you need to go do an agility course or a Slayer course and or a Slayer task, and you come back and at half past the hour, you can still do something maybe just that you wouldn't have been able to do before. So it's nice that you're not waiting to the day, and it's not nice that you're not waiting to the hour. So 10 minutes, I think, is good on this mark.
And little rare drops from the creatures, and also from the hunting creatures as well. So the butterflies, the salamanders, whether you're running an agility course, if you're cutting the hidden idols for woodcutting XP, you have a rare chance at getting compacted resources as well, which gives you a package of 100 of random ones. So I like that too for that. If you're engaged in the content here, you can sort of increase that hourly rate as well.
Yeah. Things you can unlock that you probably want to unlock to begin with is the bank chest and the lodestone. Those are the first two things I unlocked.
Yes. Now, can I just say about that? When they put a lodestone here, I was so annoyed because lodestone's obviously created by the wizards in, I think it was the Second Age, and this being land out of time, we didn't know anything about it, and all of a sudden there's a lodestone. But I think they fitted into the lore well, where the wizards have asked us to create a lodestone here, and we've had to actually build it and create it. I would have liked a heavy rune sink into it as well, where we had to charge it up with I would have liked to have seen, 1,000 maybe of your sort of your lore runes. I mean, personally, I would have gone 10,000 of each, but I think that would have been maybe a bit too much. But at least 1,000 of your main lore runes, your lore runes and other runes for teleporting. I would have liked to have seen a sink there. But other than that, I think they did it very well.
Yeah, and another thing with this is that if you want to get to the tier 3 of one of the buildings, there's a very good chance that you're going to need a rare resource that also comes from a drop on the island. And I think I either got the one to build the tier 3 Slayer building or the tier 3 Hunter building. I don't remember which one, but I got that already.
Yeah, I've got 3 of them so far.
So they're relatively common then. I mean, they're not...
Well, I've spent a lot of time. I mean, I'm soul hunting. I've got 3 of the souls so far of the new 8 soul, and that's another great thing. I was worried that they'd say a dinosaur soul and a plant soul, and we'd only sort of get one of each, but they have got a soul for each individual Slayer creature. So, again, another perfect hit for them there for me.
All right. So to build the town hall, when you build that one first, that allows for all tier 1 buildings. Town hall tier 2 allows for all tier 2 buildings, and tier 3, of course, allows for all tier 3 buildings in base camp. And the idea, of course, behind this is that you got to build the town hall first. Storehouse increases the cap of your resources to 25,000 for tier 1, 80,000 for tier 2, and 150,000 for tier 3. The sleeping quarters seems to be the first powerful one that comes up in my mind, in that this increases the amount of workers that you can gather. So upgrading to tier 1 increases workers to 15, upgrading to tier 2 increases workers to 30, and upgrading to tier 3 increases workers to 60. So you're going to be pulling in a lot of resources when you get that tier 3 sleeping quarters.
But remember, before you can do the sleeping quarters, you must have tier 1 in town hall. Tier 1 in town hall and storehouse first.
Yeah. So it's in a way a pyramid, in that you start with one and you work your way down to the other. There's also the spa, which provides bonuses to agility XP. Tier 1, 5% agility XP boost. Tier 2 is 7% agility XP boost, and Tier 3 a 10% agility XP boost. And these require 40, 70, and 90 agility, respectively. And don't worry, folks, the agility course discussion's coming up after we talk about getting around the island. Mm-hmm. Hunter Lodge, 10% chance of gathering additional woodcutting resources in Big Game Hunter, which, after doing Big Game Hunter, you're going to want. Tier 2, Big Game Hunter creatures take an extra 2.4 seconds to attack you. so 4 ticks, and 1 type of frog is removed from at the start of each big game hunter encounter, which, just to cut this short so we don't have to wait till big game hunter, this effectively makes it from a 1 in 3 chance to a 1 in 2 chance of choosing the correct type of frog. Slayer Lodge upgrades Slayer damage. The Player Lodge is perhaps where things start to get really interesting. First one increases chances of finding building resources on Anachronia, so the stone, the vines, and whatnot that you mentioned. Tier 2 restores health, prayer, and summoning points, and ability to modify house teleport tabs to the Player Lodge. So there's another way of getting to Anachronia after you unlock Tier 2 Player Lodge. But, and this is where we're going to start asking questions, a skill cape stand that grants a passive skill cape perk without needing to wear it.
So I can put my farming cape on there.
Yeah. And you'd be able to have that perk without wearing it.
Yeah.
And these are worldwide.
I mean, again, I think these are just great little rewards. I mean, it's going to take a long time. I know some people are sort of worried about sort of overpowerness of some of this type of stuff, but I think by the time you get there with what you need, you really need to engage heavily into the content here. And I think they're just nice little extra rewards that we need for this type of thing.
Yeah. And similarly for the Slayer helmet stand at Tier 3 Slayer Lodge, grants that Slayer helmet bonus across Gielinor without needing to wear it.
See, I think that's an excellent change.
Love it, yeah.
Yeah, it's perfectly in line with what we've come to expect with the changes to the comp cape in terms of pulling these benefits off. They did it for the comp cape for everybody who unlocked it along the way, but with this one, you do a bit of work, you can have this benefit for Slayer. And we also need to be real here in that, when looking at this, you need to have 90 Slayer in order to unlock this. You also need to have built Tier 2 at least of the Slayer Lodge, and also Tier 2 of any number of other buildings that I can think of that you need this. So it's not something that you're going to be getting tomorrow. It's going to be a long time before you get this, and this might be something that you want to look at in terms of this being one of your benefits. So, and go ahead.
I think it's high time to have our players be the ones reaping the benefits rather than having everything in the game being about armor and weapon, and this is always on something. I think it's time for us to be putting it on the player.
Yeah, and you know why this is a good update for Slayer is because it reinforces player choice. In that normally, if you're on a Slayer task, you're going to want to probably bring your Slayer tasks or your Slayer helmet, unless you're crazy like me, where I don't bring it because I don't have the fully upgraded one.
Right, but you can't. Well, I mean, you can't afford the accuracy bonus. Essentially, it's why you have to wear your Slayer helmet. But you may have a set that you're not getting the full benefit out of because you always got to wear your Slayer helmet.
Especially with your new Masterwork armor. I mean, you want the full set of that, but you'd also like to have that bonus so you weigh one up against the other. And this means you can wear that full Masterwork that you've spent 12 hours creating to use on Slayer tasks and also get that bonus. So I think, I think, again, they have done really well with the rewards for this.
Yeah. And, there's of course, now high-level Slayer monsters out there, and I need to point back that the Slayer helmet at one point was hybrid. I don't know. Maybe you guys can confirm. Is it still hybrid?
Yep.
I think it's all.
It's all. Sorry,
okay.
It is all.
Well, it used to be hybrid.
Yep.
And, that's you are going to want to specialize when you're taking down these high-tier Slayer creatures. And this is the whole point behind this, is it's allowing you player choice in terms of choosing what kind of armor that you want to wear. And, I think the skill cape stand is also good because that effectively means that if you're running a max or a comp cape now, you get four perks active at one time.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and that's a great little bonus. It's not overpowered. It's just a nice little extra bonus for putting in the work, and that's what we need. We need rewards for putting in the time and the work into the skill or into the game, into the area.
Yeah, and I think taking this, and I'm going to say that, I like this idea. I like managing Basecamp. And if they were to do another Miscellanea quest, they could maybe even rework Miscellanea to be something similar to like this. That would be interesting, I think. So,
see, there is a downside though. Like, I'm guessing after 2 weeks, what will we do with Basecamp? We'll have everything. And so, I wish there was something. It's not that long, man. You can max this thing out, and it's not that long. But what I'm saying is, I hope they have plans for this, so that we can keep this going. Because, yeah, I like the management stuff too. Those have always been my favorite things. And I really don't want this one to just go through, a couple weeks of working on it, and then, well, I've got everything.
And see, the thing is, we're kind of building a city on this regard too.
And I think I mean, 2 or 3 months, perhaps. I think 2 weeks, you'd be pushing that. I mean, if you look at just take a look at sleeping quarters. Tier 1 is 10,000 wood leaves and hides. Tier 2, 65,000 of wood leaves and hides. No one's even got to Tier 3 to see the amount there. But looking at the numbers there, you're probably going to be looking 120 to 150,000 of each. It is going to take a long time to sort of build up all those resources. Then you've got all your bait boxes and such. I mean, a Tier 3 bait box requires 100 wood, 100 hides, so... What's
the benefit on that? I noticed that earlier, and I'm I couldn't figure out...
You can store your bait in boxes, so you don't have to... the bait... Basically, Tier 1, the bait box has a capacity of 5 of each type of bait, and then you can draw it from anywhere across, so you don't have to keep it in your inventory or in your bank, so yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and that's also good because you can, just use that for storing more stuff from Big Game Hunter that you get from the drops. And there's also the deposit boxes that you can build throughout the island that require, I think it was Tier 1 of the, I don't know what it was, but you definitely need a Tier 1 of one of the things I did not have to build the deposit boxes. Because there's a bunch of deposit boxes on the island as well.
You need Town Hall Tier 1 to unlock these, and they require 30,000 wood and 30,000 stone each.
There you go.
And there is,
See? It's
and there is, I think there is 4. I think there's 4 different deposit boxes around. Yep.
Okay, well, I must have been looking at Tier 1s, because what I was seeing was a lot of
Tier
10, 12s, 15,000, something like that. I'm that's not going to take long at all.
Yeah, all Tier 1s will probably take you a couple of weeks, but it's when you get into the Tier 2, Tier 3, that's where it's going to take you a long time because they're going up exponentially in resource costs.
And another way to think of it rather than a managing system is that you're building a city. Because this is really the point of the point where everybody's going to congregate on the island. So it's kind of like this island's Varrock, so to speak.
Well, but if you look at the size of it, it's sort of, if you look at the map size, it sort of incorporates the entirety of this island is the size of Varrock through to down to Lumbridge, across to Falador and back up again. That's how large this island is. So I think we will continue gathering resources because I think as we go forward, they will be revisiting things and there'll be like rewards from quests where maybe we can, build an extra teleport totem at certain Slayer creature areas, or, you can put one at the Hunter area down at Salamanders, there might be things you'll be able to unlock. And I think that's great quest rewards. Build a hotspot teleport area here. Maybe you can have 2 or 3 of them depending on levels and such, and just to get around a little bit quicker. These are rewards that they can look at, real rewards from quests rather than just XP lamps that will, again, just add to that whole experience of the island.
Yeah, and I'm actually
GE confirmed.
There you go. I want to talk about getting around the island right now because This is something that needs to be talked about. And there is, of course, the agility course that is the best way to get to the points of interest, I would say, on the island. We'll talk about the agility course in terms of agility XP and what it's good for in just a little bit. But if you're wanting to get around the island to, get to a Slayer creature, maybe get to Herbie Werby, or to get to the various dinosaur hunting areas, the agility course is the best way to do it. And that is perhaps the most organized way of getting around, because otherwise there is a huge amount of vertical shift. If you just look at the vertical shift, for example, from leaving base camp and then heading out through the side of it and then down to one of the hunter areas, you're descending what would normally be 2 to 3 levels in game. So emphasis on the vertical. But another thing with this is that there is a lot of hills and drops that you would think would normally be passable. And this is one criticism that I have of the island, is that it's too hard to tell what kind of land is passable and what kind of land is not passable. I don't know if you guys found that, but it's just...
You don't know, Shane?
For me, on the minimap, I just look at that, and if it's sort of got that sort of darkish, not darkish grey, but you've got sort of the green area you can run, and if it's got that sort of greyish type break between the areas, I know that I can't sort of go through that way. I sort of worked that out. When I first come to this island, I didn't do anything. I left base camp straight away and just walked around the entire island. I took 2 hours just walking the island. Yeah, going all the different ways. And that's sort of what I worked out looking at the minimap that way.
And the minimap is fine in that regard. But I still feel that if you're navigating by clicking on the actual game world, it's not necessarily clear enough. And Tanis, I'll let you take over at that point.
Yeah. This is, look, I have wanted this to be a really, really super great update, and I think it might be for a lot of people. I'm trying not to let my experience kind of cloud that, but my experience wasn't good when we come to this part.
Because of accessibility.
Yeah, I just couldn't get around hardly at all. I thought the mapping was just it was one, I don't know where to click half the time, and then you're constantly in dead ends. I can't stay on agility course because every 5 feet there's an off ramp, and you don't know that that's an off ramp. It just, hey, that's another agility feature, but it's not. So now I've just lost my lap. I felt like I was walking in quicksand. I had a lot of trouble, and the problem was that, like, I think it is the verticality that's making this so hard, but the verticality is what helps give the graphics that extra little edge. And so I'm running into this, like, I don't know if anyone else has faced this or even thought about this with this update, but for me, it put it right in my face of where, okay, RS3, it's modern, its graphics are modern, its sound is modern, everything is modern. Why can't I push a key and go? Why am I clicking like this? Why am I so frustrated within the first 10 minutes that I don't get to know what else is on the island because I'm just sick of moving around and being stuck? So I just go back to the max field.
And, when it comes down to it, I think that is a very valid criticism on this because, I found it fine after kind of learning the way and kind of, but if I still click on the actual terrain, I try and go down places I can't go. But if I stick to the map, like Pern said, that's fine. And this goes into what I want to talk about, into what they did here. And this is something that I was chatting with Sirion about this week. What they did is they designed a map that would fit in World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online.
But it doesn't move that way.
I know. And that's the thing. They graphically designed a map that would fit in one of these other top-end MMOs. Yeah. It looks like that. It rivals Star Trek Online in terms of graphic quality.
Yeah. I just wanted to press W, like, the whole time. And you do a lot of camera panning so you can tell and look around and see what's going on. And you want to go, but you can't go. And it wasn't until I had a friend meet me out there, and he was taking me around to like the actual different features because I couldn't get around to them on my own. And I know that I'm a special case. That's why I tried to not let this, determine whether I say it's a good update or not, because honestly, I don't know. My experience has been poor, so I don't.
Yeah.
It's hard for me.
And, it's and this is also something with it, is that when you're walking in a game world that is 3D, and if you are in World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online, you can move your character in such a way that if you walk up against a piece of terrain that you can't necessarily scale, your character will make a little animation, and you'll get some kind of feedback on that. Whereas if you click in an area where you can't go, in this game map, you will wind up in some corner next to a tree, as I just did in the video version that we're running here. And I don't want this to take away from Anachronia. I think it's a pretty good update in terms of what they managed to ship. And I actually have a grand theory on what they did here, which I'll save until we're wrapping up this segment. I enjoy it, but this is one of my few criticisms that I have of it. And Tennis, I'm going to agree with you on that. It looks amazing, but unless you're navigating by the world map, or you're paying very close attention to the way the terrain is laid out, it can provide some difficulties.
Yeah. And I just want to say also, Tannis, you say you're a special case, but Jagex has always been that game that is open to a lot more people, and they even partner up with people, with a special effect and things like that. So that is something that they probably do need to take into account and look at when they're designing. For me, it's fantastic, and I've always navigated by the minimap. I don't play any other games, so to me, this is the only way to get around a game. Other than sort of PlayStation and Xbox. Computer games, this mouse clicking is the way I've always sort of done it. So it is interesting to hear you say that and to think of that. And I don't think of things like that because I don't, yes, I wear glasses, but I've always used the Minimap just to sort of, I expand that and just use that way. But, with their partnerships that they have, that it is something that they, really probably should be looking at.
Yeah, speaking of the mini-map, I had trouble with the mini-map, but I did find that when I would switch to the world map, the world map was actually pretty good. It was actually decently helpful to kind of get your bearings. But I just wondered, like for me, it really made me kind of ask the question of, and maybe this is a big question, maybe this is something we shouldn't even be thinking about, but maybe it is. Maybe this is something to think about. With the way RuneScape is and the way RuneScape 3 is going, is it like, are we coming to a junction where this modern game is going to have to shed its skin at some point and fully step in to that realm and finally leave the past to the OS crowd? Like, I don't know, but it really brought that out with me.
They looked at doing this for NXT, but there was just too much lineage that was designed based on the point and click that it would have been rewriting most of the game.
Yeah,
then I think it's time to rewrite the game because you're looking at this is fine until you start bringing stuff like this out, and to show this off properly, we need to experience this world, not from I don't know. It was just it's hard to move, man. It's hard to move.
Yeah.
It's really all I can say.
All
There's
right.
a time where maybe the world map is a pop-out where we can put it onto a second screen or, split it away from the main game into a separate window type thing.
Oh, you have no idea how difficult that would be.
Yeah. Okay.
That's actually not a bad idea.
I don't have any idea how difficult that would be. But,
just the way the fact that there's still... First thing that would probably have to go for that to happen would be the Java client. That would have to go.
Well,
first
that's
no
problem.
We don't
care about that. We want that gone.
At some point, it's too hard. We can't accept it's too hard. At some point,
well, the first step is to get rid of Java. After you get rid of Java, you can do whatever you want.
But this is like having a brand new Mustang or something, but you can't go over 30 miles an hour.
Oh, it's like,
that's great. It looks great. It sounds wonderful, but I can't floor it, man. You know?
But they said last time there's less than 5% of the player base still using Java, so dump it.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's less than 5%, dump it.
All right, and speaking of moving around, I think now's a good time to move on to the agility course, because this course, you know, in my humble testing of this course, and I do say humble testing because I do not have bladed dive. I do not have the new abilities from this update, the double surge and double escape. You don't need it.
It's helpful.
It's helpful, but you don't need it. My current best time for running this course is 8 minutes and 30 seconds. You can get it down to below 7 without that. Bad. Someone in Clan Quest did that. I think it was Derp. Got down to below 7 minutes on this entire agility course. It spans the entire circle of the island, and as we mentioned before, it's the best way of getting around. You get 20,040 XP for a complete run of the agility course, and with that, it's really easy to calculate XP per hour. So with that, it puts it at about 141k XP per hour, which is on par with the Heffen course. But if you're going to do agility and you want to get that XP rate, go do Heffen because it's similar.
Yeah, this is not on par with Heffen. No. Really. Yeah.
No. It's more fun.
It is more fun. Like it's the same XP, but for that kind of benefit, just go do Heffen because you don't have to click as much.
Well, and see, this was a good experiment, I thought, to see how will skillers and skilling mechanics, how will that go when you're starting to introduce these PVM style mechanics in it?
Oh boy, and just wait for Big Game Hunter.
I'm not sure that it worked. Like I don't really think it worked, but that's my opinion because they did some things right. Okay, so the rarity of the pages and all that, it'll keep the price up for a while.
Oh yeah, they were going for like 300
the
mil.
price will remain up there for a while, but skillers don't skill for money like that. It's usually all about the XP and it doesn't deliver.
But what I also like is the chance to actually make money off agility. I mean, we've never had that opportunity before.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so yes, you're going to have the same, it's a bit more click intensive, but you're going to get the same XP rates as Heffen, but you're also going to be making, 6, 7, 8 million GP an hour doing it. So you weigh one up against the other.
And you don't get the money right off the bat. But, I mean, if that's what it advertises out to, then, oh boy.
Well,
Thieves did a run. It took him, he said, 9 hours to complete a Codex, and he sold that for 65 mil.
Okay, so that's what they're down to now.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So that's about a little over around 9. Which, it's for running around a circuit is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that's something that was done right because it is going to keep the price up. But does anyone else feel like it's just long too? Like it's just really long.
See, I don't. If it's as long as it's under 10 minutes. I mean, I've only run the course 3 times. 8:09 is my best time. My first time I didn't even register a time because I got lost and went off in the wrong directions at one point. But once you sort of work it out, once you sort of know the layout, I think 7-minute runs, 7 or 8 minutes, I don't think is really that bad because it's a pretty area to look around. You've got the chance that Codex, where just a little hint to everyone, where your luck of the dwarves, because while you get the 10 pages for completing a lap, that can sometimes trigger a bonus page or 2 when you finish, which it did for me.
Yep. Oh, cool.
Yep. Yeah, so wear that because it can trigger a bonus page or 2 when you finish that lap. But, I've got Bladed Dive. I never ever used it. I've got to work out how to use it.
There's also the mobile perk.
Yes, I've got to work out that too, how that works.
I never used any of these either. So I mean, you don't need it, but it's there.
No, and that's it. I think there is an achievement where you need to complete it in under 7 minutes.
Yep.
To unlock one of the achievements, but I'll do that eventually. But it's just the fun of it, and while it's not going to be for everyone, it gives us that choice, and that's what it's all about: player choice. You just want to sit there and get your XP and just line up your camera angle so you're clicking in the one spot each time and watch TV. Great, you can do that. But if you want to sit there and engage and have a little bit of fun and have a chance to make some GP, then I think it should be tougher, and you should be sitting there and 96 grimy Torstal. Sorry. Sorry, I just got a Seren spirit and she just sent me
that's a good one.
Grimy Torstal.
I was going to say that's a good one.
But yeah, it's I think that's that player choice and that diversity that we want. It's not going to be for everyone, but it's going to be a moneymaker for those who want to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's actually something else that we haven't mentioned yet with this course, is that you don't fail obstacles. And if you fail in the terms of it's as set here, you don't have to go back and redo it. No, you just take a small
lose a little bit of life points.
Penalty. Yeah.
Which is great, yeah. And again, there's probably something a lot of people, there's this skill cape that most people will probably add if they're doing a lot of agility to the, to that totem that we're doing.
The agility, or the skilling
just put your agility cape on there.
Yeah, I was actually wearing my agility cape when doing this course. So
yeah, wear your agility cape and you don't take the life point hit, you just do a little stumble. And that's a good lid. Did you notice that, the little stumble animation?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay, yeah. If you were going to miss it, you'd just do a little stumble, so you don't take the life point hit, but it just that's where you don't sort of trip over and.
Yeah. So two criticisms of the agility course since we've been singing its praises so far.
Yep.
First one is, of course, what Tanis mentioned, that, if you're not watching, it is hard to kind of see where to go. And, the thing to watch out for, I would say, are the signposts that look like dinosaur footprints, either on actual signposts or on the actual obstacles themselves. And that is how you know where to go for this.
But they have those on the other things too, Shane. That's how I was getting super mixed up.
And some of
those are like on the off ramps and on the on and off ramps and all that.
Oh, you mean the big dinosaur footprints?
Yeah, it's.
Oh, okay.
Like,
these ones are white.
A lot of trouble with it.
These are white painted ones on signpost type things or on rocks. They're a white.
I think they need to make them. They need to make them glitter a bit more.
Yeah, nice little glow around it or something.
Yeah, that would be good. And the second issue with this is that some of the click boxes for the obstacles seem a little bit too close together, and that the one that I'm having in mind right now is the skull, or when you're traversing the spine and then the skull. When you're on the skull, you can effectively click backwards and end up going backwards if you're not careful, when in regard what you're actually looking for is a cliff face that you want to go down.
Yeah.
So those would be my only two concerns with it. And there are people out there who are saying that this is useless, right? They're saying this is useless because we have Heffen, or we have the Wilderness Agility course, or maybe even the Advanced Barbarian courses, but it's not about that. It is on par with Heffen XP wise, but the reason you're doing this is to get the Codex pages. And there's going to be people after this update dies out who are going to need these codexes, and this is going to be the only place that this comes from, that the Codex pages come from, that we know of, and hopefully it remains that way, because
has to remain that way. They better not change that one.
Yeah, because
treasure hunter.
Because who in their right mind is going to do agility?
Well, I am going to be doing my 120.
What was that?
I'm going to be doing my 120 agility here.
Okay. And same for the agility skill of the month that's happening in a week.
Yep.
So.
Yep, I'll be fully training here.
That should be interesting to see then how that goes. And, in the time we've been talking about this course, I've had my run playing through for those watching on video, and I'm just getting back to base camp right now. So that's about how long a single run takes. And this was one of my solo runs, I think.
If you're doing it without, if you're doing it without the bladed dive and the mobile and the surge and such, it'll take you about 8.5 minutes. If you've got all those extra boosts, you can get it down to around 6 minutes.
Yeah. This run was 8:23.
Yep.
So, and also as you're going around, you're going to encounter many, many music tracks, and I actually want to just showcase some of these right now too.
Yeah.
Right. Does anybody have any favorites? Start with one of your guys' favorites.
I don't know the names of them, but there's a lot of good. What they reminded me on was Jurassic Park, but not copying Jurassic Park, but had that same sort of that big music feel of Jurassic Park on some of them. I just really felt again the music, just hit the spot again.
Yeah, here's one of my favorites. It's called Discover. Let's play a bit of it. That's so good, isn't it?
Is that what it was playing when we first got to the island?
No.
Okay. I like that track.
I believe that was Beyond Time's Reach, this one. Or no, that wasn't the one. I don't know what that one is called. Beyond the Storm Wall, maybe? Yeah, this is it.
That's the one, yep.
And I think we heard some of this one in the live stream, the content showcase last week, didn't we?
Yeah, I believe so. But again, there was not one track I didn't like.
Yeah. Here's another good one, Dragonkin of Old. I had to play through this one the first minute and 15 seconds there because you can just tell that something ominous is kind of lurking below on that one. So, and visuals combined with the environment art and the vertical shifts in the map, all culminating in the agility course, combined with the music, it really makes me feel as though that this map is something that is out of, World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online, I would have to say. And I think that's a good thing for RuneScape going forward, but as we talked about last week, it's exceptionally jarring if you're standing in Anachronia, then you teleport back to somewhere like Yanil.
Yeah.
And that's a huge jarring shift.
Oh, yeah. Hey, as I said, I'd love them just to take 6 months off of updates just to graphically update the whole game, but, obviously the main player base wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
But I'd also love to get this music track from the island, that orchestral version they did for a lot of the songs. I'd love to have one done for Anachronia.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'd spend money on that one.
Yeah, definitely. I can say that the Orchestral Collection soundtrack is definitely worth it. So let's move on to the Slayer Master there, Lanakea, who, I haven't done any Slayer tasks yet on this island, but she does require 90 Slayer and 120 combat to be able to access. And, this is something that we talked about coming in, and that this is going to be the end game Slayer Master. Do you guys see yourselves swapping from Morvrin to her?
Not at the moment. No.
I have been at the moment. I spent 1,600 points to get my first dinosaur task.
She was rough on those, wasn't she? Did the same thing to me, man. She was itchy.
Took forever, but I finally got one and preferred it, and then sort of only had to cancel another 4 tasks after that to get another dinosaur task. So she does, well, both times I've got 94 dinosaurs. They're great. I'll bounce between her and more. I've noticed the Slayer Cape perk doesn't work with her.
I'd imagine that's a bug.
Mine went off.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, mine went off.
Because in that 1,600, I never got one, whereas...
wait. Are you talking about the Master Slayer Cape perk?
The Master Slayer Cape, where you get your choice.
Okay, fair enough.
But the choice isn't on there.
The dinosaurs aren't on there?
Yeah, no, they're not on there.
Ah, okay. Because at Morvern, if I cancel 4 or 5 tasks, he'll notice my cape and give me one. And as I said, I cancelled 1,600 points worth and never got it procking. So that's interesting. But yes, I'll spend a bit of time here. The dinosaurs are fantastic. I love different mechanics that they have. Just really interesting. It's a really interesting style. I think sort of Tanis was right when he said earlier, reminiscent of the higher level of the Sophanum dungeon.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Just running down some of the tasks that she can assign: Abyssal Demon, Mammoths, Adamant Dragons, Black Demons, Black Dragons, Camel Warriors, Creatures of Daemonheim.
Huh?
Yeah, that's where you get... That's where you get
the
those
Seekers? Or the
Seekers, Soul Gazers, or anything.
Soul Gazers, okay.
Anything within the dungeon.
So you can choose Calgarian Demons, Seekers, Edimus, or Soul Gazers if you get that one.
Okay.
Demons, dinosaurs, dragons, and these are, of course, the cluster tasks that are mentioned.
Yes.
Where you can
and
fight
that is,
anyone
again, fantastic. I love that. Love the cluster task. So if I get demons, I can, if I just want to kick back, I can go and do some black demons, but I can go do Calgarians if I want to. If I get dinosaurs, I can choose any of the 4 dinosaurs to go for. Dragons, I can go and do runes if I want to. If I want to just knock it out quickly, I can just go and do some steel or whatever. I love that idea of the clustered.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what Slayer used to be like for low leveled, when you'd be told to kill blue dragons or giants or something to that effect. In particular, in regards to the dinosaurs and the vile blooms, have you killed the vile blooms yet?
Yeah, I thought they were easier than the dinosaurs.
Oh, they are. Yeah, I've done Lamp and Floras and Devil's Snare so far.
Yeah, the Devil's Snares are the ones that I looked at. And, we were kind of going to yellow alert with this with these Slayer creatures, weren't we, this week?
Oh, yeah, a little with their drops.
But it turned out to be okay, I think, based on what we've found so far. And the reason for that is that if you look at the Devil's Snare, they drop things like Mud Runes and Spirit Weeds.
Mud Runes and Main Island, I don't... I mean, they're not... It's not as bad as some other creatures out there, but again, the whole 5-year skilling plan and taking, sort of player resources, skilling resources off Slayer creatures was something I really wanted them to concentrate on. And even now, I think, even with the numbers that they give out, I'd like to see them perhaps removed and replaced with, with either GP drops or salvage, because, I do think, herbs and such should be coming in by players, not by drops.
Yeah. And we've been over this many times.
We have many times. But what I do like is it's not egregious. They give a fair amount, but not.
If you
bad.
mud rune craft for an hour, you're going to be able to get more mud runes than you get from these. I think we did it that you'd probably have to do between 3 and 4 mud rune runs in order to get what you get in mud runes from one of the Devil Snares, for example. So that's not necessarily that bad.
And the same as the herbs, it'd be like, even though there's a couple of different herbs they drop, it's probably on par with doing a run rather than when we were sort of testing some of the other ones that I did where, if you do a couple of hours there, you're doing 3 times as many as growing them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What would you say you preferred? Did you prefer the dinosaurs or the blooms?
I mean, the blooms are easier, but the dinosaurs are more fun.
All right. How about you, Tannis?
I've tried them all. Probably the littler dinosaurs. Or I like better. Man, that's a hard one. That is kind of a hard one. Probably the dinosaurs, but they hit a little bit harder. I think. For me, they hit me harder.
Protect from Melee worked well on the British dinosaurs, I found.
Yes.
And I brought
those ones.
And I brought the Masterwork so I could, turn that damage they were giving into damage over time. So that helped as well.
Yeah, what are you also... I was doing them with magic, but if you used your devotion and your debilitate at the right... Because every 6 attack, they do that sort of back-off jump attack at you, and if you use those 2 abilities at the right time, you negated the damage from those. So, again, it's sort of... I think these type of creatures are a good lead-up to starting to learn a little bit of that sort of next step in using your abilities to block certain things and such. So I think they're a good step, learning step to going into sort of some higher level bosses where you're going to need to learn hit devotion at the right time, hit debilitate at the right time. If you bring a shield, when to resonance at the right time, they're going to help players learn that type of thing. So I think again they've hit it, pretty spot on there.
Yeah. And, that's what we were told coming in, is that these would be hard. They wouldn't be as hard as, the Ripper demons and whatnot. But
yes,
it's there. Another thing I actually want to talk about in regards to the Slayer creatures and the drops is Arbuck. Ooh, I had lots of fun with this one, and thank you, Pern, for providing me some Arbuck seeds. With that, I got over 200 herbs from just 2 Arbuck runs. And in case you're wondering what we're going on about here with this, Arbuck can be used to create an extended super anti-fire potion, which makes it last for 12 minutes instead of 6. And and there's a new recipe that you can buy in Prith called the Aggro Overload, which combines an aggression potion, an overload, and a clean Arbuck to effectively have an overload plus an aggression potion, which I think is good for Slayer, because when you're doing Slayer tasks, you don't need those souped up overload potions, right?
I mean, I usually do.
Oh, you use the souped up ones?
I do, because I've just made them all.
Overload. Yeah, I mean, just regular overload. I don't do the gumbo stuff,
Okay.
No, I use the big Supreme Overload one because it was just making them. It was just easier and sort of cost effective for my herb lore training. So I've got about 10k of those in the bank, so I just always use those.
Yeah, we also got stamina potions. Use an unfinished Arbuck potion with a Super Energy 3. This grants 175 XP, and it will reduce the rate at which your run energy drains and give you a slight boost to your agility XP. That's a stamina potion. Now, I actually want to... agility level. It'll raise your agility level by 6. I don't know what I said there. But
it'd be nice if it did give you a little boost on X. Maybe a 1 or 2% XP boost for agility. Because
that would be interesting.
That would make it a handy little... Because let's face it, there's not a lot you need run energy for in this game now. We don't sort of run out of it like you do on OSRS. So,
yeah, big game hunter. That's one area where it might help. And I think we can talk about this because this is something that for me in herb lore kind of fills a missing niche. Because recall, this is 175 XP, but Cerebrews are 180, so it's 5 less XP than a Cerebrew. But if you're coming into these Arbuck potions, if you're doing lots of Slayer on the island and you have unfinished Arbuck, you can buy these Super Energy 3s, which are pretty cheap as they are and always have been, and are a good alternative to Cerebrews. So just something to keep in mind.
There you go.
So this is good for herb lore as much as it is everything else, because it provides another option for people who might want to do brew training but have an entirely different use case on that. So I felt that was really important and something that many people missed this week in regards to this update.
And the good thing about that is if people are going to sort of go the cheaper route by doing this, it may help those of us who do train brews, birds' nests and such start to creep up a little bit more in price. Yeah.
And the reason I say it's cheap is because when you're leveling up herb lore, super energy potions are actually something good that you can do. And you might have some of those left over. So while this might not necessarily be the most optimal in terms of price, it's definitely a good second option. I'm a little bit disappointed, though, that you can't combine the Super Anti-Fire, or the extended Super Anti-Fire, rather, with one of the overloads. That would have been another fun thing to see on there.
Yeah, like add it to the...
Like the Searing Overload?
Like a Searing Overload, yeah.
Add it to that.
Those are what I use, like Searing and Holy.
But then the problem with that is that standard overload only lasts for 6 minutes. And do you really want an overload potion with stats to last for more than 6 minutes? I guess that's the question there, right? So.
But again, if it's a high if you make it a high level, maybe, and it doesn't have to be double, but maybe if it's an extra 2 minutes, 6 minutes to 8 minutes, not sort of double, I don't see anything wrong if it's high enough and maybe untradeable. So you have to create it yourself.
All right. So, going back to the Slayer drops of these things, the drops are not necessarily as egregious as they have been in the past, but when you fight the dinosaur Slayer creatures and not necessarily the blooms, you do have the ability to get components to make a blowpipe, which when you upgrade it with all of its gear, which right now, looking at this, it'd be multiple millions. Looks like it's going to be upwards of 16 million GE, probably more. An upgraded blowpipe makes you a tier 87 ranged thrown weapon, two-handed, with tier 95 accuracy and tier 85 damage. It does not require ammo and is automatically poisoned.
Yep. That's a great one. And also those new boots.
Yeah, the level 80
drops. Level 85, I think they were, power boots. And they, GE list price is 9.5 mil, but
the blast diffusion boots.
David, speaking to David, and they're going for around 400 mil at the moment because there's just not that many out there.
Drop by Vile Blooms when you're on a Slayer task.
Yep, and drop by dinosaurs if you're not on a Slayer task.
And, many people weren't talking about this, and these were things we didn't hear about coming in. So, I think this is important because, Tier 80 Magic Power Boots, though granted, we already have Tier 80 Magic Boots somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, but these are power boots, so the PVM guys are going nuts over them.
Okay, of course.
I'm talking the laceration boots. There is a Tier 80 melee power boots dropped by the Slayer targets. While worn, the boots allow the use of bladed dive ability with only a main hand melee weapon equipped instead of dual wield weapons.
Interesting. I was not aware of that item.
Laceration boots, so they're a new one that's come out. So, yeah, they're...
I don't think there's really anything to that, but...
Well, for people who use bladed dive, they're a power boot, and, you can use a two-handed weapon. So, whereas before, if you wanted to use bladed dive, you had to use dual wield. Now,
they probably brought switches for that, didn't they?
Exactly, yeah. They had to bring switches.
Okay.
Yep, so now if you've got a Zaros Godsword or a Nox Scythe, you can do bladed dive, so...
Okay.
So yeah, those will be high for a while.
Okay.
Until they all get them.
Well, I guess everybody's got their choice. You can either go do agility and get some Codex pages, or you can go do dinosaurs off task, or you can go do blooms on task. So, anything else on Slayer? I think that's probably the most of it. These drops that people really aren't talking about all that much, but seem rather immaculate.
Yeah. No, I like it. As I said, not a big fan still of noted herb drops, but hey, that's neither here nor there. The Bainite Stone Spirits, I think, they're not too bad. Anything sort of above rune, I think, in the Stone Spirits, reasonable on those.
Yeah.
And the coin drops. As I said, I'd like to see more salvage and coins, less herbs, but other than that, again, they've hit it pretty well.
All right.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that if you're fighting the blooms, there's a chance they drop one of their own seeds, and then there's a farming patch somewhere on the island where you can actually plant them and fight them on your own time there with these seeds. So if you didn't want to use the public spots, you could buy a bunch of desert or devil's snare seeds and just plant them and then grow them and fight them on your own. And they're relatively cheap as it is right now. You get 200 farming XP for planting them.
Okay,
and
I've got a bunch of those
just north of the eastern overgrown idol. So
nice. Did not know that. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Next up is the Herbie Werby Distraction and Diversion. That's a fun name, and apparently it's based off of some TV show.
Okay.
And
maybe it's like a UK show or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Heard of it.
I think so. And once again, the easiest way to get to this is to do the agility course. And you'll see a distraction and diversion icon and a big blue tree and a dungeon that you can just drop right into. And Herbie Werby begins. It's a weekly distraction and diversion. Grants Herblore XP. I had double XP active on my character at the time, and I got about 28k from doing this event. 28k.
Oh, 28k was with bonus?
Without bonus.
Oh, without bonus. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
Without bonus was 28k. And the whole purpose of this is that there are poisonous herbs down below that you need to have burned, and you want to prevent the zygomites who are down there, who are carrying the herbs to the fire. They've gone insane or something to that effect, and you want to prevent them from carrying the healthy herbs into the fire. So you can...
They've been sniffing the smoke a bit too much, have they?
You go around the edge and you pick the poisonous herb and then take it to the fire and burn it, or prevent any of the zygomites running around from gathering and taking the healthy herbs to the fire. So it depends on how you want to play it, but that's the way it be for this distraction and diversion. And in case you're wondering why you would want to do this, well, there's a little reward shop at the end where you can purchase herb lore or fire-making lamps, small lamps. There's also a herb bag and a herb bag upgrade that allows you to store grimy herbs. And also the Totem of the Abyss piece. What? And Totem of Crystal Base.
That herb bag is something that I have. I want all creatures to stop dropping noted herbs and just go back to unnoted herbs and have a herb bag to store them in.
Oh, there you go.
So, but the thing is, maybe this is going to be the first step in doing something like that. But yeah, there's what do you really need a herb bag for these days? Because most creatures drop them noted.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, if you're using the farmer outfit on a farming run, you don't need it for that either because your herbs come clean, and there's a good chance your cape's going to note it, and you can always just use them on the leprechaun to have them noted there as well.
Exactly.
So after you finish Herbie Werby, you wind up being able to purchase from the shop, and as we mentioned, the herb bag, but also the Zygamite Pet Sasha for 300 spirit points. You get 100 points each time you do it. But there's also two things called Totem of the Abyss Top and Totem of Crystal Base. And this is a good point to jump into the actual totems here on the show, because this is something that wasn't broadcast to us, but is perhaps one of the more immaculate things that you can look at as a reward from Anachronia. So let's go through some of these here. There's 8 totems in total. 7 totems in total. I miscounted. One is a treasure totem, and this reduces the number of steps required to complete a clue scroll by 1. Navigation totem reduces the duration of ports voyages by 15%. Anyone? Any takers on that one?
Not on that one.
No, I'm already done.
Crystal reduces the Elven clan lockout period while pickpocketing by 25%.
That's a decent one.
Mm-hmm.
Abyss allows teleportation to itself when placed.
Now, this one I think is going to be, that's that first of getting around the island a little bit better. So you sort of put it closest to the area. Say you're doing a Slayer task or you're hunting one of those souls, you can just place it near that and just go there, bang, it'll be nice and quick. So I do like that one.
Totem of Intimidation allows the skipping of kill count in God Wars Dungeon 1, excluding Nex.
For pet hunters, this is fantastic. I had about 3 weeks ago, I finished all the God Wars Dungeon, the drop log there. So this would have been fantastic if I had that. But it's going to be good for those pet hunters. So or the drop log people. So yeah, that's a decent one too.
Totem of Summoning increases the duration of summoned familiars by 10%. It's neither here nor there, is it?
Yeah, it's a 50-50.
And Totem of Auras reduces the cooldown of auras by 50%.
That's the big
15.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the big one, yep.
Okay. For me personally, I like the Treasure Trail one. That's going to be the one I'm going for first. And to obtain each of these totems, you need a top, middle, and base piece. So for the treasure one, you get the top one obtained randomly while doing Big Game Hunter. The middle one is obtained randomly while doing the Agility course. And the bottom one is obtained by pulling 20 ancient Zygamites that are found around the island.
And what I love about these auras, or these totems, is it's, if you want them, you've got to engage in different aspects of the island. Yeah. So it's sort of making you experience everything there. So which is a good way to get people engaging in the content.
Yeah, and my sense is that I'm going to be at the agility course. I'm going to get a Codex or 2, maybe one to sell, maybe one for myself. And hopefully while I'm doing that, I'll get the middle piece for the treasure totem. And then after that, I'll move on to Big Game Hunter and go for the top piece on that one. Then pulling up the Zygamites is the simplest one. So I think that's the one that I want to go for first.
Yeah, I did 3 runs and I got the totem piece off the agility course already. So it's not overly. I think it's more uncommon than rather rare.
Okay, because I've I've done way more runs than that, and I have not got it yet. Okay.
Oh. And also, did you pick up the totem bag to keep all the parts in?
Yes, I did.
Just to let people know about that too. Yep.
Yeah. And actually, talking about picking things up at base camp, the totem bag, there's also the lectern for the codexes. If you search that lectern, you can get 25 free pages.
Oh.
Ooh,
yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice there, Shane.
I read it. I didn't search it, though. Interesting.
Yeah, if you search it, you get 25 free pages. The Totem of Auras, the top piece is from pulling up all 60 zygomites. The middle piece is obtained randomly while killing Slayer monsters on the island. Can be off task. And the base is obtained while randomly doing the agility course. So, I like these totems, and I think that's going to be... this is just a fun little thing that you're going to collect over time. And
I think there's something for everyone there. Like the Totem of Something, familiar lasting 10% longer. That's great for your PVMers because, they use their Nihils and Steel Titans and such. So it gives them longer there. The Totem of the Abyss for people who just want to teleport around the island a bit quicker. Totem of Treasure, which, again, that's probably one I'll get as well. You can have up to 3 of these active, and you need to charge them each day. Yeah, I do remember that as well. Yeah, that's a great one. Skip a step on a clue scroll.
And with that, fun. I'm wondering because the reason hard clues are more profitable than elite clues is because they take less time. So I'm wondering if you have this active, if elite clues then become more profitable.
And I wonder if it's a random skip or if you get to choose. Activate the skip on this
From the
step.
sounds of it, it's just going to give you one less clue.
Yeah.
So, and in doing so,
just take off the first step.
and in doing so, and finding all of these things around the island, you're going to collect all 60 zygomites, and that's how many of them there are. And there are maps on the wiki and whatnot for finding these, but the zygomites are indeed in relation to the totem. So just keep that in mind that the zygomites are pretty much secondary.
I had to cheat on 2 of those. That was part of the thing. I was just sort of walking around wondering and getting. I found 58 on my own, but there was 2 that I missed, so I had to end up cheating. Yeah, I thought I've got 58. I'm just going to pull up the map and find the last 2.
Yeah. And there's also a mini quest on the island, which is basically a little fetch quest called Helping Lanakea. And you get the Totem of Intimidation middle piece from this mini quest. So,
yep.
I think we can move on to Big Game Hunter now, which is, perhaps I don't know. How do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about Big Game Hunter?
I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
So,
Tanis,
not enjoyable at all. But that's me.
Yeah.
Opinion. I really the low light of the week for me was the Hunter stuff. That Hunter took it on the chin this week.
Well, we'll talk about the nerfs to it after.
See, and I'm excited about the Hunter stuff because I think they've done the perfect job with Hunter.
Yeah, and so Big Game Hunter, there's a number of islands, a number of dinosaurs around the island that you can fight. And, you would normally think that, these dinosaurs might be for killing, but no, these ones are actually for instanced hunting areas. And the way it works is that there's effectively 3 tiers of dinosaurs that you are fighting on there. So you start off, for example, with the arcane Apatosaur, which requires raw shark bait, and this is 75 Hunter and 55 Slayer. Or you can start off with a Cimatops, which is raw sailfish, same level. Or you can start off with Bagrata Rex, which is requiring raw manta ray as bait. And I don't know, do you guys have raw manta ray kicking around at all?
No, I mean, you can get it from the swarm, though, from deep sea fishing. So it might be cheap.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that sort of got me the most because it only comes from a fishing trawler, as far as I knew.
Or the swarm.
Okay, so there you go. I didn't realise it was in the swarm. So, okay, that's not so bad then. But no, not raw. I had a ton of cooked one when I was doing Kriara, but
as you would.
Yes.
You would, yeah. Okay.
So let's just say you're doing the Arcane Apatosaur, which is the one I started off with. That will drop its own meat when you successfully hunt it, and then that's used for the next one in the Asiatops. And then the Asiatops meat is used for the Oculi Apatosaur. So they go one to the other to the other. So if you're wanting to do the high-end big game hunter stuff, you need to start off at the bottom.
That's one of the I thought that was a good touch. That's one of the best aspects of Big Game Hunter, in my opinion, was they did make a tight ecosystem in that regard using. But I'm not sure if the meat's tradable, is it?
Yes, it is. Yep.
It is.
You can buy it.
So yeah, that's what I thought it was. So that's
so you can do it either for the meat or you can do it for the actual rewards.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, that's only going to depend on how many people are doing this, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be doing this. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's hard, but it's really super time consuming for a chance.
You got to have your PVM mechanics down. You got to have a weapon with mobile on it, something with mobile on it. You need definitely need Surge, in my opinion. Maybe Bladed Dive. Definitely Escape would help as well. And, just going through this. And if you are successful, if you are on your game for, the basic ones at level 75, the Apatosaur, the Scimitops, and the Bagrata Rex, you're looking anywhere between 100 and 150 KXP per hour if you're on your game. If you're not, it's going to be much lower than that.
Oh, it's going to be much lower.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we hadn't even talked about, you got to pick the right frog. You got to set everything up.
Yeah, well, there's
with
actually
your
a bit of a
logs
strategy
and everything
behind that, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, when the person showed me how they did it, they picked up all the logs at one time and did all that stuff, and then they also took one of each frog, and
then you look at what frog does the most hit. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. And the top tiered one, the middle tiered ones from in the level 80 hunter range, the Asiatops, the Corbuca Rex, and the I have no idea how to say that one. Spicati Apatosaur? I don't know. 200-ish, 250 KXP an hour maybe if you're on your game. And then finally the Oculi Apatosaur, the Malatops, and the Pavosaurus Rex if you're on your game for those. 350, 450 KXP an hour if you're on your game. So this is not Hunter.
As well as Slayer XP.
As well as a bit of Slayer XP,
yeah.
And in my opinion, you're not doing Big Game Hunter for XP.
You're doing it for them all.
You're doing it for them all.
Yeah.
And everything that comes from it. In particular, at the high. And, this is the thing with Big Game Hunter. You want to start at the bottom ones, get enough bait to continue on, and eventually work your way up to ones like the Pavosaurus Rex, which give you the superior long bone, which is a part of the pieces that are used to make the pterosaur maul, combined with the volcanic fragment and the tribal fin, because each of those started off with a GE value of 33 mil, and they're a rare drop from doing Big Game Hunter. So that's what you want to work up to in the end, in my opinion on this. Also, you guys will have noticed that probably you can have 2 dinosaurs spawn, or maybe even 3 dinosaurs spawn in the arena at the same time. Did you have that happen to you, Tanis?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay. If that happens, if you get 2 dinosaurs, you get 3 times the Hunter XP. And if you get 3 dinosaurs in the ring and you're successful, you get 6 times the Hunter XP.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for strategy on this, you want to start off by gathering 3 vines and 7 logs, I think it is. No, 4. Yeah, 7 logs. And there are, depending on your instance, there's going to be patches of tall grass that you can hide in. And then when you're hiding in the tall grass, you're immune from being seen. So you want to fletch your spears when you're in the tall grass. And then you got to come out from the tall grass to build what are called effectively scorpions, but they're basically elaborate big crossbows that are going to be used to take the dinosaur down. And then you have to extract poison from the frogs. And the way it works is that each dinosaur has a weakness, strength, and something that it's neutral to. So if it is weak to the certain type of poison, you'll deal 30,000 damage to it. If it's neutral, you'll get a 15k hit, and if it's strong against it, you'll get 7,500 hit. And the whole point on this, the way you should probably start out, is to do one of each spear, and then pay attention that when you hit the dinosaur, you'll see a hit splat of a different color, and you obviously want the 30,000 one, and that's the most efficient way to go about it, rather than just trying to take a shot in the dark and doing 3 of one color and risking being wrong.
Yeah, because these are 90,000 HP.
Yeah. So
it will take a while.
After you build the scorpions and arm them, you have to go to the center and build the bait pad. And this is done with 1 log, and then following that, you just bait the bait pad, the dinosaur will come out towards it, and your spears will fire, taking the dinosaur down. And, if for some reason you did 3 yellow ones and you were lucky, you're going to take it down in 1 hit. And I actually got one of those on camera, but I unfortunately deleted it before I re-encoded it to the format that I use for transferring. So you didn't get to see my massive 90k 1 hit, but I did get one eventually where I did take the dinosaur down successfully in that regard. So,
and just to let people know, also,
what was that, Brent?
I was going to say, just to let people know, with the frogs that you get the poison off, there is from the Hunter Reward Shop, you can buy something that will only spawn 2 frogs rather than 3,
yeah,
so you'll have a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
So that's something to do as well. And that's the Hunter Reward Shop, and you get 1 mark every time you take one of these dinosaurs down. And, the reason you want to do Big Game Hunter above everything else, probably, if you're going for 120 or 200 mil Hunter, or even 99, is that in the Hunter Mark Reward Shop sits the blueprints for the Elite Hunter outfit.
Oh, okay.
But there's also another nice little reward in that Mark shop as well.
Which one are you thinking
which
of?
Which is the 30% quicker box trap setting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're going to need that, so that's good.
Well, why are you going to need that?
You're going to need anything you can to make that Hunter a little bit faster and a little bit better.
No, this is across the board. This will.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the box traps you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're doing crystal chims,
exactly,
or turtles or whatever, you're still going to need that. You're going to need
so.
Other things you can get. Aside from the quick traps, is the ranked baiter title, a title that shows your proficiency in baiting big game creatures.
I was really disappointed on that one, though.
Why?
The top name.
Yeah, the very.
I was hoping for.
Yeah, they missed Master.
I was hoping for Master. Really?
Yeah. Okay,
I mean,
guys.
come on.
Okay.
How did they miss it?
Okay, they can't put that in. They cannot put that in.
Yeah, I thought they missed the opportunity to name a couple of these dinosaurs, like a Marcosaurus, or like
the Osbornosaurus.
Yeah.
The Shawneesaurus.
You can also purchase a dinosaur lure that instantly brings back dinosaurs from hiding, because after you take 5 attempts on them or 5 kills, they go into hiding, much like the Prif elves do for 1 hour. So you
I don't like that.
Them back.
Yeah. Do we know if that is an unlock or is that a consumable?
That's a consumable.
They are a consumable. Because it only says items. It doesn't actually say if it's consumable or not on the wiki.
Yeah, it has a 1 next to it, so I'd assume it's a consumable.
Okay.
Yeah. And for 20 hunter marks, you'd want to, if it was going to be forever, you'd want it to be a little bit
lot more than that. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So, I'm gonna talk about the Elite Hunter outfit because I think that's part of this update. But we'll get into the actual hunter bits first. And, you know, we've had this one in game before. You guys think it's better to get it this way, or it's just as it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can get it in game, that's great, right?
This is a really hard one to unlock. 100 marks is going to take a long time.
Well, yeah, but I've been doing the Black Warlocks. I'm up to 28 marks already.
Oh, you can get hunter marks aside from Big Game Hunter.
Yeah. You can get it any hunting you do on the island.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was Big Game Hunter
yellow
only.
Salamanders. No. It's just I'm up to 28 marks already just doing the Black Warlocks.
Okay,
so,
well that helps then.
Yeah.
That's A-okay then. All right.
Yeah, that's
all right. Nothing to write home about.
That's not such a problem.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can get it hunting on the island, no big deal. That's good. I'm fine. Okay. So let's move on to the hunter changes. But first, before we do that, I just want to summarize the land out of time. And I think I've cracked this update because, you know, Pern, you're obviously enjoying it. Tanis, you and I talked this week. You said you weren't able to find anybody who was truly overhyped from it, aside from the way it looked.
That was the weirdest thing. Like, I would talk to people, I'd be like, what do you think about the update? Oh, I really like it. I was like, okay. I was like, do you like the Big Game Hunter? Oh, no, man, that's horrible. I was like, oh, okay. Well, do you like the agility? Oh, no, that's horrendous. That's a 10-minute course. No, there's no reason to do that. I'm like, but you like the update? Yeah, I love the update. What do you love about the update? Well, I like the way it looks. Okay. Well, I mean, that's cool and all, but yeah, that was a lot of what I was hearing this week, and I'm like, do we just want it to work so bad that we're like, no, it's good, really? You know, while we're painstakingly loading up scorpions and squeezing a frog's ass on them and just.
So I thought you'd like this. You're a big Game of Thrones fan. I thought you'd like the scorpions.
Yeah, no, I like the nod to it. Yeah, I did like the little nod to it.
And, you know, this is in general the same sentiment that I found as well, is that, yeah, you know, we're not overly confirmed that we like the general content that was here. People like the way that it looks. And in general, I think that this update was a success because we're not seeing much pushback against it. And my grand theory for this whole thing, this whole update, the land out of time, is that we're not done with it. We're going to be definitely seeing more this summer. We're going to probably be seeing a quest and some lore coming out of it in terms of the Dragonkin stuff, because that just makes total sense with all the Dragonkin statues and whatnot there. And my sense, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that this is an expansion by any other name, because they're going to keep adding on to it. That has been confirmed. There's going to be lore and quests that are going to take place on the island following Desperate Times. And this has as much, or if not more, content than Menaphos did.
Yep.
It's an expansion.
I think it's on.
I think there's more content
here
than
has
Menaphos.
As much. See, I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with that. I'm not sure. It's definitely had a different reception. I don't know if there's more. I mean, maybe. I think that's one of the really interesting questions that we probably should dive into over the next few weeks. Of why is this so different? Why has this been received so differently than Menaphos did when it's not that different?
I have an answer.
It's not that different.
You know what the answer is? Let me see if we got the same.
High level.
That's part of it. But we only knew there was going to be hunter stuff, slayer stuff, and agility stuff. We didn't know the details about any of it, and we were left largely, in this case, to discover most of it on our own. Whereas with Menaphos, everything was hyped up. Everything
for 6 months
is hyped up for 6 months, and it was geared towards that mid-level piece of content. Whereas with this, you know, looking at Big Game Hunter, you can start at 75, and for all intents and purposes, that is mid-level in this day and age. You could start the agility course at level 30, but you're not going to get very far on it. So you can do parts of it. It goes all the way up to 85. Right. And, you know, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, players were not expecting something on the level of Prif. players were not expecting, or players were expecting Prif 2.0 with Menaphos when that came out, but it was severely overhyped. Whereas everything here was kept on the down low until about last month. We didn't even know this was releasing this week until last week's stream. Though if you put 2 and 2 together with the Breaking the Storm event, you could have extrapolated this date. Yeah. And I think when it comes down to it at the end of the day, the reason this is successful is because it was underhyped and over-delivered. That's what it comes down to. And it looks really damn good, too.
It's funny I definitely agree with that. Underhyped. They seem to get the right level of that this time, I thought. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Sorry, go ahead.
And
I was going to say, it's funny that you guys say that people you spoke to have not really enjoyed much of the content other than look, because in my clan, Thieves has loved all the agility. There's in my clan, I mean, a lot of people. There's different areas. I mean, I love what they've done with Hunter. I think they've perfected Hunter. I love the management of the base camp, that type of thing. Slayer's my favorite task, and hunting new souls. So, I've enjoyed pretty much every aspect. I haven't tried big game Hunter yet. I want to just enjoy different sections. I didn't want to rush through and just do a little bit of everything. I want to be, I'm enjoying this. I enjoy that agility course of, yes, it's an 8-minute run, but, it's that chance of making money and not just clicking and just being bored in that same circle over and over again. See, I prefer that type of thing. So, a lot of my clan, they're all loving the agility course as well. So it's funny that different.
It's a different perspective.
Perspective of different
And I'd
people,
also like to point out another reason, the third reason it's successful, in addition to being underhyped and over-delivered, being graphically beautiful, is that there's stuff to exploit. People love when there's something to exploit with an update, whether it brings them in GP or XP or interesting new drops. And you got that with Big Game Hunter. You got that with the Agility course, and you got that with the Slayer creatures out there. So that's why everything being focused on is in general receiving a good reception this first week, is because people can exploit it no matter their level.
Yeah. And I think that the agility course, everyone's got course, and I know people were worried about that at the start, how long is it going to take, but all of a sudden you can make GP out of it, and that's just that got everyone hyped. Though as you said, they didn't tell us everything. There's a lot of it to discover ourselves, and that is what's made it a lot better update, or a lot better received update than Menaphos.
Yep, I completely agree, and that's where it's at with this.
And that's what they should do more of.
And hopefully they learned that. And just a quick throwback to the monthly bit, we actually suggested they do that rather than, not necessarily hyping stuff. Let's just have a month of surprise updates and let the game carry itself and see how it goes.
So I think they do need to add a lot of small things that maybe they couldn't get out for release or something, but the island's sorely missing like fishing and just some of the other skills. I think it definitely needs it. It's such a large land mass that I don't want to say it feels empty, because it doesn't feel empty, but it's so big. Like there should be some fishing or some other stuff.
But would fishing really? I mean, everyone deep sea fishes now, so would it really be worthwhile adding it when there'd be very few people using it? Unless there's a new type of fish there, or maybe a new little fishing fishing trawler 2.0, where you're going out and catching sort of dinosaur type fish to use.
I don't think you even need to go that far. I mean, just give it spots where you're going to be using the bait for the big game hunter. So give us a shellfish spot. And what was the other one, Shane? Was it just
manta ray?
Shark. Manta ray, yeah. So if we could have a few of those spots, I think that would work real well. Wouldn't even need like a activity type of thing. Just
one thing I think was missing. Yeah, that's a good point. One thing I think was missing from the agility side was that in the behind the scenes video in the lead up, they did say that there'd be sub circuits that you could complete. I don't see.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember them saying that.
Yeah.
But anyways,
but maybe that'll come.
Yeah, it could come. And I mean, this has all been, I think, received really well. To the point it has eclipsed the Hunter modernization rebalance this week, which is the way I suggested that these updates come out, because you remember when we first heard about the Hunter modernization and how people were complaining about it and that it was going to hurt. I did a cruise through the official forums and read it this week. Yes, read it. That's a bit odd, and I didn't see any major complaints about.
Because it got snuck in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Once people realize it, I don't think it should have been snuck in there, but I've been against a nerf from the beginning, and I still am.
Okay,
but they told us right from the start that it was.
Yeah, no, they did.
With
I mean, that was good. It was good that they told us. I mean,
I think they
justified themselves and they did what needed to be done.
I still think
I disagree there.
Still earning too much XP, but I mean, if Hunter was a skill that went to a true 120, where you had content between 99 and 120, then yeah, make a mil an hour, 1.5 mil an hour. But in a skill that caps officially at 99, any more than 400 or 500k an hour is too much XP.
Yeah.
See, but it's the most click and it's the most.
It's not now though.
It's not. And I want to get into the changes that were made to this, and we'll go through it in an orderly manner.
Yeah, just while Tannis is saying, I have been sitting here while we've been doing this show. I have done 823k Hunter XP clicking Black Warlocks every 3 or 4 minutes.
What is that? What are you training on?
Black Warlocks. Now, I do have double XP. Take that into account. I'm getting 1,087 XP drop on the Black Warlocks every time I catch one, and 132 agility XP. So, and it's totally AFK. It's fantastic.
And
this is what I want from Hunter.
And people doubted this when I told them that they'd be getting this method. Anyways, diving in, buffs and boosts. The Yak Twee stick lowered to 2%. 5% chance of extra sprites has been increased to 20%. And, of course, the reason for this, I'll highlight again, the Yak Twee stick in that activity, its sole purpose when it came out was to use the Hunter skill to allow skill peers to get summoning charms without killing big creatures. And we're seeing a return to that charm sprite minigame down by Ardoin with the Yak Twee stick. It can also be worn when you're barehanded catching butterflies. Also, the chance to auto-deploy or pick up traps from the Volcanic Trapper outfit has increased from 10 to 30%. The Elite Trapper outfit fragments can now be earned in-game from level 70. And the Hunter Skill Cape perk has been updated, so much so that when it ticks off now, it will activate any trap that is placed directly afterwards. It will be instantly set up. So what this means is that they have brought in the one-tick hunting method to set up traps and made it part of the Hunter Skill Cape. So if you're wearing your Hunter Skill Cape, any traps that you lay are going to be set up instantly, saving you time. So that's pretty big.
Yeah, what? Oh, I'll wait till the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 traps that can now be used from level 1, 3 traps from level 30, and 4 and 5 traps remain at level 60 and 80, respectively. The player will now walk on top of a shaking trap before picking it up, making it easier to relay on the same spot without needing to walk there first. Fallen traps will now have a left-click option to lay rather than to take it, and the Trapper outfit's success chance bonus will now work on all Hunter creatures. And the maximum possible number of skill champas per trap has been raised from 4 to 6 to make skill champas easier to catch. Now, this is where things start to get interesting, and that I actually think we're seeing the true diversity of Hunter show up. Of course, you have the high-click methods that we've talked about before. You have the money-making method in Big Game Hunter, and now you have butterflies as the AFK method. Click boxes have been increased. The physical size of them has also been increased. The Sapphire Glacialis butterfly has been made bluer, butterflyer. That's a fun one. Your agility level now affects your success chance when catching butterflies. Glacialis and Snowy Night butterflies have been moved around in Relica to make them more accessible, and when catching a butterfly barehanded, there's a chance that you will release it automatically and start catching again. And the enhanced Yaktui stick can now be worn while barehanded catching butterflies. Okay, so this is where the Hunter rebalance first starts to come into full gear because, of course, this is the new AFK training method and per you gathered XP rates for these. And these are going to be fully boosted XP rates, right?
Yes. So
with
just
or without double XP?
No, I took the double XP off. So these are just basically the 6% clan boost, the 7% volcanic hunter outfit boost, and the 2% Yaktui boost. So I started with the Ruby Harvest, and I actually did this one twice because the numbers the first time were actually higher than the Sapphire Glacialis. So I went back there and redid it 2 more times just to make sure. Now, the base XP from these is 300. Now, this is barehanded, remember, is 300 XP. So over the hour was 155k hunter I got with that 14% bonus. Now, for people, if you're sort of looking, you want to take all those bonuses off and just work it out, 492 caught per hour, basically, times your 300. So that'll give you sort of your base hunter XP. If we want to quickly work that out, I'll just open up my calculator here. So if I say 492 multiplied by the 300, we'll give you a base of 147k, basically.
And that's AFK.
Now, next I went. That's AFK. Yeah, that's totally AFK. As I said, I've just been AFKing Black Warlocks while we've been on the show, and it's just so to do Hunter AFK is the number one thing that they could have done for me. Sapphire Glacialis. Now, these I think I didn't get a chance to do a second test here. I think I was a little low score on this one, but I got 160k. They have a 400 base XP. And I only did 438 catches in that hour. Now, it seems to be, you should be doing about 450 to 480, I think. So, the problem with the Sapphire Glacialis, I found they just sort of kept floating away and they'd be dragging me away from the main area. So when they did disappear, you'd sort of have to run back and catch them again, whether I just got unlucky or that's something that they may need to look at. They were 160k XP an hour. Again, base of 400, I did 438 catches in that hour. Next up, your Snowy Nights. They're in the same area as the Sapphire Glacialis, and as I said, they're now white and the other ones are blue, so you can differentiate better between them. 197k in the hour. They have a base of 500. Again, this is all with that 14% boost on the numbers I am giving you. I had a catch rate on those of 486 per hour. Now, the best ones, obviously, are the Black Warlocks on the island, and you do them on the island so that you get those hunter marks. 225k an hour. AFK. Yeah. On top of that, you are also getting some agility XP too. So with the Ruby Harvest, almost 26k, 32.5k with the Sapphires, 51.5k with the Snowy Knights, and 55k with the Black Warlocks.
So Black Warlocks 225k XP an hour at maximum on the island.
They're a 650k base. Now I caught 415k an hour on those. Now I took the lowest one the first time. I did a little bit more.
What do you mean 650k base?
Sorry, 650 XP base.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So per catch.
All right.
So yeah, that's without the bonuses.
And I think this is what Hunter was missing, because now we have that triangle in the Hunter skill. We have AFK with these, the money making with the big game Hunter, which of course is also high intensity.
Yep.
Which, when you're looking at the possibility of making many millions, and ranged tank armor, mind you, we didn't mention that with Big Game Hunter. You use that to make the new level 75 ranged tank armor. And then, of course, you have the regular high-intensity Hunter training methods, which we'll get to those XP rates in just a moment with turtles. I just want to mention before we move on to that, the herblore habitat stuff and the salamanders, because with those, salamanders have had their click box on the tree increased. There's now a release all option. More black salamanders have been added to the wilderness, and yellow salamanders have been added to Anachronia. Herblore habitat, bunch of quality of life changes for this one. A client freeze has been fixed. Jadinkos can pass through players. There's a chance that when you gain a seed within a herblore habitat, it has now been converted to a different message so it doesn't interrupt the players. Juju Hunter potions now stack up to 30 minutes or 36 minutes with incense sticks rather than 6. The southern region of herblore habitat has had some foliage removed. A small stock of Juju herb seeds has been added, so if you're, just in a pinch and you need to farm some of that Agoon to make a Juju farming potion, you can do that. You don't need to go farm the whole or go into herblore habitat for the whole shebang to make some of these Juju farming potions, which is very nice, I must say.
2 a day, I think he has.
Yeah,
of the
2 a day
seeds,
of Urzile, Agoon, and Arguay, and Shengo and Samden. So, let's see. Ineligible Jadinkos are removed from the area quicker, and you're now warned when adding a dose of Juju Hunter Potion when you already have the time limit allowed, and they've also increased the seed drop rate. And Falconry has been buffed as well, with Kebbit spawns being rearranged to make them better to catch, and 4 more dashing Kebbits have been added to within the Falconry area for anybody who wants to do that. So just some general changes for that, but I think we can go on to the point where everyone is mourning in some circles, and Pern, you're just celebrating for the
If I can just say,
sure.
You also now on the island have Jadinkos, and they've all got their own area now, so there's no need to change habitats and such. You just basically put the vine in, and away you go. So you've got every Jadinko other than the god Jadinkos down there, and in their own spot. So if you are doing Jadinko hunting, it's pretty much killed off herblore habitat for Jadinko hunting. You would do it here now on the island.
Yeah. All right. Tanis, turtles, what do we got?
Turtles are the best, coming in at 700k an hour. That is the best hunter in the game, and
I assume that's with boosts.
Yeah, that's with all your boosts. So there's a funny thing that kind of worked out, and I really don't like any of it, to tell you the truth, but the top rate is easier for the average person to achieve.
Which was the goal.
Yeah, I guess. Probably shouldn't have been, but sure. So you have a better chance of reaching that 700k now, but that's as good as you're going to get, so... I don't know. I've always felt that if you were playing the game actively, you should be rewarded for that. You should have the highest XP rate, and 700k, yeah, it's the highest XP rate. It's not what it was. I don't think a mil was too much. I don't think a mil 1.2 was too much.
So you think basically maxing out Hunter in once you get out there, say from 95 to, which is halfway, maxing out the skill in 7 hours was acceptable.
But you weren't ever going to do that, right? Okay, like you.
But there are people who would. There are the few who would.
But what I'm saying is, like, you might have achieved that 700k before, right? But you weren't getting the 1.2. You weren't getting the 1.9 unless you were the best of the best. So that's like going up,
right? And that's
but
the
that's
point.
like going up to someone and tell us and being like, "Hey, you suck.
Hang on.
You can only use bronze armor now."
Hang on, both of you. Hang on. The point is not that there is that rank out there that you could reach potentially. 1.2. The point is that there is that top echelon of maybe the 5 to 1% of players who can reach that 1.2 or who could reach that 1.2 that was making it unfair for the rest of us who were not able to reach that.
But that's bullshit, Shane. No one ever says that when it comes to PVM. Bullshit. I call bullshit. There is no way.
I was getting 1.2.
You can't do 400 or 4,000% in Rage or something? Or are they going to nerf that shit because 5 people can do it?
I was getting 1.1 to 1.2 at Totals myself. It wasn't overly hard to do. I just don't think that is in a skill that maxes out at 99. I don't think that a mil XP is acceptable.
And I'm actually going to jump in on here, and I'm going to say that 700k is still too much.
It's still 500 max. I think 500 with all your boosts, 500 max is what you should be getting.
Why we don't say that with the other skills?
I do. I say that with every skill.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, that may be, but you can't put this genie back in the bottle. I want to feel rewarded. I do not feel rewarded.
You're right. We can't put the genie back in the bottle because we're at a point where this game has devolved so much into an XP race that players are not happy if they're not getting top tier XP. That's what it's come down to.
But play.
The thing is,
they overhalved it.
But the thing is,
this is dramatic.
There is no point to leveling a skill beyond 99 right now, except for some cosmetic 120. So what is the point in doing it? And how many hours did you say would that be, Pern? 13 hours? From 95 to 120?
From 95 to 99, which is what you'd be looking at, would be about 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours to max a skill. From 99 to 120, obviously, that'd be 120 hours at a million an hour. But that's not the point of the game. The point I would be happy with 1 mil, 1.5 mil XP an hour if there was true content and a true 120
or if there was
level.
Even a reason to go
but
to 200 mil.
When it's only virtual, exactly. When it's only virtual, there is no reason to have those. It's detrimental to the game to have these levels that quick.
But who's it affecting? It ain't taking anything away from you whatsoever.
Well, it is. It's taking money away.
I got 2 points. I got 2 points on this. Number one is that it's bad game design to have something that is that massive in game, because when you're looking at this from a design, just wait. When you're looking at this from a design perspective, you want it to be accessible to the strong majority of players. Something that is accessible to 5 and less than 5% of the player base is not good. And you're going to say PVM Telos at 4K in Rage.
I'm going to say PVM all day long.
But there's a huge, substantial risk involved in that. In
cost
particular,
well.
if you look at the death costs, and I'm going to actually invite everybody to have a look at David's article about death costs.
Yeah,
but
not
they
only
don't
death costs,
die. David doesn't die. That's what. Yes, it would cost if he got killed, but he doesn't get killed. Let's face it.
But he still has costs for the charges on all his augmented armor. He still has costs on all the potions that he has to buy. There is a lot of costs involved in PVM. PVM and skilling are two different things. We have to look at it differently there.
Yeah,
and we're not.
I don't think you can compare them.
I am. 700k, if 70% of the player base can hit that, 650, 700k, I think they have done the job properly. As I said, they ruined farming by bringing in farming with excessive XP.
Same thing with
rate.
safe cracking.
Safe cracking, exactly the same thing. These are two skills. Those two things should have been taking the skills from 99 to 120 with the XP rates that they have. Now, if they halve those XP rates that they give, then fine, keep it at that 99 level. What they're trying to do here, they've realised the mistake. They're actually looking at the XP rates on farming and looking at nerfing those too on the player-owned farm, because they've realised you have destroyed a market of seeds. No one really runs trees anymore. Seeds have dropped more than 70% in costs from before player-owned farm release to today. This is the thing that we're looking at. People
anyway. Those were dead from drops. The seeds were dead from all the drops in Slayer. A magic seed went for nothing. Like it was
the Magic Seed.
free.
To be fair,
free now.
Hang on.
But before player-owned farms, they weren't.
But we need to look at this from a wider lens. And if you look back to when farming was, around the time of EOC, when it was, 5 or 6 years old at that point, you were still dealing with Magic Seeds that were 180K. So yes, PVM did cause the first drop of seeds, but player-owned farms became an alternate farming method.
Look, if they had went to a legit 120, you're saying that the rates would have been fine. That's fine, but I think we also need to acknowledge that like the game is not the game of 10 years ago. 99 doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean anything anymore. If you're not going for the 120s, I don't know what you're doing. If you might be doing PVM or something, I don't know.
Well, see, the answer, and this is what we were trying to get out of them for the CompCape rework, is that we need another end game other than just comp.
That's it. And, I mean, you're looking at getting to 120 that much quicker. Then once the people have reached their targets, they quit.
Then what?
You've lost that money.
Yeah.
You've lost those memberships. I'm just going to go back. In September last year when was it September? October when farming was released.
September.
Okay, Magic Seeds on the 19th of September was selling for 118,000 GP. Today, they're 16,000 GP. So it's gone from that's right.
I mean,
because player-owned farms
destroyed that. In my opinion.
I just want to say that we're getting into something that is not necessarily related to the update at hand, and I want to get back to that because, in my opinion, what we had before was someone with a messy haircut. What has happened to the hunter skill is that it has received a haircut and it has received a nice hairstyling on top, and that is precisely the reason it came in with this, is because you could not ship this update, the Hunter modernization, on its own without something to draw the player's attention away.
Why not? It would have been exactly the same. You would have had Big Game Hunter for money, and you would have had AFK butterflies, which are super low rates, by the way. Like, those are low rates.
But here's the thing.
225k an hour is not a low rate.
But here's the thing.
It is. It wasn't a low rate 10 years ago when I was doing Hunter, and the best you could get was 180 on some Jadinkos.
But here's the thing. You're missing the persuasion aspect. You're missing the sales pitch aspect of this. Yes, you could have put Big Game Hunter in at the place in Feldup Hills, for example. You could have put it there. But what does Feldup Hills look like? It looks like trash compared to Anachronia.
No,
now, if you compare that,
why would you get rid of Anachronia?
Just wait. I'm saying that Big Game Hunter being on Anachronia in itself, the visuals of it are selling this week's update. And you'll note that I said going into this section on the Hunter modernization, that the complaints and the rates we're talking about now, not a peep anywhere, unless you're looking at individual skilling, efficient communities who are looking at this kind of thing. Not a peep in the general community that normally would complain about this. And as a result of this, Jagex has done their job. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want anyone to get mad at me. Jagex has done their job, and they have used Anachronia as a Trojan horse for the major hunter nerf. Yes, it was a nerf.
Oh, no.
It was
they did it.
It was needed.
What you also need to look at is Jagex is not World of Warcraft where you want to max out the thing in a day or two. Jagex, the RuneScape is all about the road, the travel. It's the road to that ultimate end goal. There is nothing. You don't need to rush to 99 for any reason.
So,
the whole thing is the fun of the game, and just that experiencing the different things, going to the different levels, working your way through. And as I said, 700k an hour is exorbitant still.
I disagree. Now, if in a month they were able to do some kind of analytics, and the number of people engaging in Hunter drops by 50% or more, you'd still consider that a success?
But I don't think you'll see that. I think you'll see a lot more people a lot more people engaging in Hunter now, that there are more training methods, there are AFK methods that they're going to be able to do, there are money-making methods that they're going to do, I think you'll find that Hunter will go up.
That if the engagement went down for some reason, and in particular people started abandoning their saved islands with turtles on them, then yeah, there should be something to look at.
But they're still the best in game. If you look at the XP on everything else, that's still double what everything else is earning.
Yeah, but it still sucks. I mean, just because it's the best doesn't mean that we don't remember that it.
How does it suck?
To get 1.5. I mean, you're not. I don't understand how you can say it's.
I don't understand how you can say it still sucks, because it's still double what everything else is offering you, but you have different variety of training methods, and it is making the game healthier. It's viable. It's keeping people engaged in something for longer.
I see, but I find that the opposite, because like I'm not engaging in Hunter. Like people that I know are not going to engage in Hunter. They've already done it.
I'm engaging in Hunter now. Yep.
Well,
Magesmith is now excited about Hunter with what's come in. That's his next 120 skill, because he likes what they've done, and most of the people I have spoken to have enjoyed what they've done, because what turtles were, and I mean, you get nothing out of them. They're very click intensive. And 700k is more than double what you're getting in the AFK method, which is perfect. You're getting 225 on the highest AFK method. You're getting 700k there. That's 3 times the amount. That's a perfect spot.
And also, let's not remember that there is a double XP weekend coming up, and we have 3 double XP weekends a year, and combine that with bonus XP, you're back to you're looking at 2.1 mil an hour for turtles with that.
That's better.
So, I mean, I didn't want this to turn into a debate about the Hunter modernization, because we had been there on that. I'm glad we got the numbers out. It was, in essence, a case of fixing shoddy game design that had been in place since 2008 and had just been power crept. And that is the nature of MMOs. It is painful to make those decisions from time to time. And
yeah, I just you don't take things away from people.
Figures on Yellow Salamander, 210k an hour on the Yellow Salamanders.
Okay, so
see, when I look at 210, there's nothing that would drag me out there to do for 210k.
But they're designed for lower. They're not designed for the 90 plus. They're designed for the 75 to 85 level player.
I don't know.
So you're also looking at it from your 99-20 perspective. You've got to look at it as the entire game. For everyone in the game, you've got to look at it from those levels 70 upwards. You can't just look at it as your 99 plus. And I think people aiming for that level 99, which is where the skill does cap out at. That's where we need to be looking at keeping these. Unless you're doing a true 120, you need to keep in mind XP rates 299 and the 13 mil, and I think that's where Jagex are now starting to look at and realize, and and you say they can't take things away. I mean, that they took the proper comp cape rework away.
No,
they've taken a lot away.
They shouldn't.
But they've taken a lot of things away. I mean, they have taken a lot of things away for the health of the game, and that's what we need to look at. We can't look at it as a me. We've got to look at it as a health of the game issue, and I think that's what they've done here, and they've done a perfect job with it.
All right, Janice, last word to you. I want to move on.
I don't like Hunter anyway. Like, it wouldn't have mattered.
And that's fine. That's exactly. You don't like the skills.
But what I'm saying is,
and you want to max it quickly.
But they killed the people that were going for 120. Everyone that was going for 120 that's either already done it or they are done. They are not going to do 120 Hunter like this.
Well, Hunter's my lowest skill. I'm at 110, and I am now going for 120 because I think they have perfected what they've done. I know 3 people in my clan who are doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can do this,
exactly.
for a while.
You've got to look at the wider community. I mean, you're looking at the friends you have who are all complaining about that. I've got a series of friends who, they like the Hunter skill, but they wanted a better way of training, and they find this a better way of training. So,
look, I will cop to that. I'll give you this. Like, my circles are more on the elite side of skilling. Like, that's what they do.
Exactly. They don't care about gameplay. They care about XP rates.
Exactly. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. That's what every update comes down to at the end of the day, is a matter of perspective. And, that's something we do really well here. And that's what I actually want to talk about next, is because we have the Golden Gnome nominations that are open. These are open for the first time ever to the public to nominate someone. Nominations close on July 16th. Starting on July 26th, the public will vote. Voting closes on August 1st. And normally we don't like the Golden Gnomes because it's the same old crew all around every time.
What's Sirion call it?
The mods mate circle pat on the back.
Yeah.
I kept it clean, see, Shane?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we would like to kindly ask everybody listening to this podcast to nominate RSBANDB Update, specifically our weekly bite, for Best RuneScape Video Maker, because we do these weekly bites every week that there is a core game update. We run through the patch notes of the week, the important patch notes of the week that everybody should be aware of, and with that, we also provide all the information necessary to provide you the quick rundown of what is happening with the week's RS update, sometimes in things that aren't even mentioned in the news post. So if you enjoy what we do here, if you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy the weekly bites, we would kindly ask you to head on over to this nomination thread on this survey and nominate RSBANDB Update for our weekly bite. And the link that you want to provide for the account is youtube.com/RSBANDB. You want to nominate RSBANDB Update, and you want to nominate them for the weekly bite, the video content that we provide each and every Monday that this comes out. And since nominations are public, we figured, why the hell not? Let's do this. We're providing a service to the community. Let's see what happens with this.
You might even force me to renew a passport. I haven't done it because I didn't want to leave. I was afraid that Trump might not let me back in if I did. So,
well, hey,
I mean, leave for a while.
So there's also going to be public voting on this too. So if we make it past the nomination phase, we will need you guys' help starting on July 26th. So with that being said, keep your eyes on this space, and we'll be talking more about this in the coming weeks. But suffice to say, you have until July 16th to get this nomination in. So please do that. You can find the link in the show notes at update.rsbnb.com.
I just want to throw out to the listeners, I mean, remember Shane has been doing this for 15 years and, week in, week out. So, yeah, get that vote out there for him. I think it's well-deserved. So fingers crossed you get up there, Shane.
Okay. We also talk about things relating to the Jagex company themselves. And, we had this story break last week in a Chinese news source that required translation, and it looked as though Jagex was going to be sold for $330 million. Later got upgraded to $530 million. But some people actually did some journalism this week rather than just taking reports that were being shopped around the internet, and contacted Jagex on this, in particular Game Industry Biz and PC Games Now, talked to Jagex, in particular Jagex's PR department, and they said that Fukong's regulatory statement earlier this year acknowledged that the company was looking to restructure its debt, which resulted in recent announcements regarding a potential sale. However, this remains one of various possible outcomes and is an ongoing situation. The statement continues, Jagex has never been in a better shape, and following 5 years of record growth, our focus is to execute our 5-year plan, built around further investment into the RuneScape franchise, investment into new living games, and working with other studios to publish their living games under our partners' programs. And the idea behind this is that people thought Jagex was going to be sold for $530 million, but it looks as though that according to Jagex themselves, the company has not yet been sold at all. So that is still on the table. And we were talking about this earlier in that, if you have a company part of your portfolio like Jagex is, and it brings in record of, $1 billion in revenue and over $300 million in profit, that's not something you want to sell if it's a moneymaker.
Wouldn't
Especially
think so.
in a company that is losing money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why there was a bit of concern about that when it first came up that it was sold. And, there were posts on Reddit and whatnot going about that. But I could have talked about this last week on the show, but I decided not to because it didn't feel as though it was right. And we needed it to calm down a bit and
more official sources.
Let more official word get out first.
Yeah, when I heard the rumors, I was a little worried just because I had heard it was an American company, and I know we have a really bad problem with private equity companies buying successful businesses, loading them up with debt, and then running out the back door. And I thought, well, this is it.
That is the American way, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm like, well, this is not good. This is not good at all. Yeah. So I'm glad it was a rumor.
Yeah, let's be known it was a rumor and the company has not been sold.
If I had $530 million, I'd buy it. Just load up MTX and RS.
Oh, woo!
Oh, that could be something else we could talk about this week, but we won't go there.
That's a topic for another time.
Can we add lodestones for them, too?
And speaking of topics for another time, let's talk about our Patreon page. And, it's getting time close to vote for that monthly bit for the end of the month. So if you want to have the ability to vote on that, you can subscribe at patreon.com/RSBANDB. But of course, we are forever thankful to our Patreon supporters who make everything we do here possible. This week, I'd like to thank Arvids L, Brock H, Cass, Darren L, Diana, Kyle, Logan H, So Juice the Devil, Tom V, Zachary K, and Zez. Thank you, all of you, for your support and enabling us to do what we do here at RSBNB. It truly means the world to us. And if you want to subscribe like these wonderful people have, you can visit patreon.com/RSBNB. Subscribe for as little as $1 a month. $1 a month. And with that, you receive a special mention on our show notes, early access to the show notes, the ability to join in our roundtable discussions month to month, and to vote on topics for our monthly bit. And in doing so, you help RSBNB fund the costs for hosting and production of RSBANDBupdate. For $3 a month, you'll receive a special VIP rank on our Discord server and a special mention on the podcast at the start of the month, as well as high-quality stereo AAC versions of the show, which are very important and very fun to listen to for these weeks, where we have music being played in the background. And for $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out on the podcast every week and exclusive access to the outtakes that we use for the clip show. And what we're doing with all this, at $15 a month, we have our monthly bit bonus show. Poll will be going up soon for that. We also have our Inside RSBANB update, which was just published last weekend, a look at where Sirion records the show. We'll be pivoting people this coming month and having another interview with someone else in text form. So that's what you can look forward to for Inside RSBANB update. And, of course, the roundtable, which we host in the middle of the month, which will be this weekend as I am going away next week, where we sit in Discord and just chat for an hour about everything and everything RuneScape related, and these will of course be available on Discord and later published for Patreon supporters. And should we reach that mythical $99 tier, we'll be having movie night with Shane and Tanis in the RSBNB Discord, where we'll run through some of our favorite movies. So patreon.com/RSBNB, and thank you everybody for signing up and supporting us. All right, so we're going to do tech news quickly as we are way past the 2-hour mark. A very fiery show, and
we knew it was going to be, right?
And I appreciate it, yeah. So G2A is back in the news this week. We talked about the company that sells video game keys last week on the podcast with their scummy practices, and it turns out that what they have attempted to do this week is they have attempted to pay upwards of 10 different video game journalists for favorable coverage of their company. This was confirmed
G2A.
by G2A's head of communications in a telephone interview with Polygon. And
10 grand?
What?
That's a lot of money. I said 10 grand?
No, 10 different journalists.
Oh, I thought you said 10 grand.
No,
I was like, I'm for sale. I mean.
And, this is for G2A's 10th anniversary. They just can't compete with the likes of Steam and Epic, dare I say, that they have had to resort to these scummy practices that we dealt with last week in terms of them not being able to provide the appropriate keys and whatnot. And this is just another step downwards for G2A. And I think this is just a good warning out there that regardless of whatever you're doing, you best not purchase a video game from G2A.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Because, I mean, just look at this. Like, we talked about this in the news last week, that there are video game developers who are being shortchanged with their hard-owned work, especially, you would say that normally it's like Rockstar and whatnot, but these are independent developers who were resorting to the point of having people pirate their games because G2A ads were appearing above their own games, which is just downright disturbing. So, yeah.
And you shouldn't ever have to feel like you're taking a chance when you buy a game,
Yeah. But, I mean, and, I just have to highlight this yet again, that if you're ever use G2A, it's probably best not to do that going forward. So, next up, Google and Amazon are playing nice. In particular, you will now be able to access YouTube on your Amazon Fire TV service, and Amazon Prime Video is making its way to Chromecast and Android TV. And you'll recall last year we covered the fact that these guys weren't necessarily playing nice, and they were preventing their competitors from accessing one another, and it appears this has now been fixed. So, it's interesting because the Apple side, these guys both put their apps on Apple TV, but if you chose a Chromecast, they would outright prevent Amazon from having theirs. Okay, I accidentally turned on the TV, was saying something. Hang on just 1 second. I don't know what caused that. I don't think I said...
You'll need to yell at once Apple TV to Shane's...
I must have said some kind of hot word that turned something on there, but I didn't want that to happen. But nonetheless, it's good for both sides, I think, and kind of just reinforces that device interoperability. So.
Yep. And that's what you want. I mean, people shouldn't have to be forced into one or the other to do certain things. It should be accessible across the board. And great to see these companies doing that.
Indeed.
Finally.
Next up, Amazon is going to be launching 3,200 internet satellites.
Wow.
They're asking the U.S. for permission to launch these 3,200 communication satellites, and this effectively puts Amazon in a new space race that is going to be challenging SpaceX.
And do we have laws about this? Because I'm feeling like we're probably going to run out of room. We got just debris everywhere, and this is probably not
lots
a good
of space
situation.
junk.
We've already screwed up the planet. Now we're going for the for the space as well.
There have already been applications approved for 13,000 low Earth orbit satellites, and 11,943 of these are from Elon Musk's Space Exploration Technologies company. And these...
So 13,000, he's basically got 12,000 of them going up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And these operate at altitudes between 112 and 1,200 miles up. And for context, the space station orbits at about 300 miles. So that's the kind of low Earth orbit range that we're talking about. And Amazon wants it to operate in the 370 to 390 mile range, which is above where the space station operates. Now, the whole idea behind this is to offer internet services from these low orbits, because that is one way that you can offer internet services, is effectively beam the internet down back towards the planet, and it allows you to cover areas where you can't necessarily install fiber or copper in order to make that
wonder how
project.
Stable that is.
Well, they have been working on the latency of it, and it's stable enough, but it's not the kind of internet you'd want to be using for video gaming or anything to that effect. This is more to kind of connect the developing world and, dare I say it, connect them to Facebook.
Google search and
Google,
I was going to say
even Amazon.
And that dirty place, Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't anyone else feel a little uneasy that we're letting private companies just really do whatever they want and put satellites up there like that?
Well, see, the thing is that when space was primarily controlled by the government, it became prohibitively expensive and risk-averse, whereas with private companies, it's all dependent on the amount of money that they can make at the end of the day, and it helps them kind of mitigate some of that risk factor, whereas government money is marked based on how much risk there would be, and that's why
there's pros and cons,
you have
but I mean, I just feel like we wouldn't have GPS if we left it up to Amazon,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if this is good.
And see, that's the same argument as well, is that many of the great technological advancements, even take the pen I use every day and the computer technology pioneered on the Apollo space programs, that wouldn't have happened without government funding. Same thing, GPS, same thing, the internet. So, there's a bit of give and take on this, and we need to see where, I guess, the defense industry goes with this, particularly being government funded as well.
I just worry about handing over control like that. Once they get their fingers in there, then the government start turning. They'll start privatizing stuff.
They'll that's a concern.
You can handle GPS better. And then the next thing you know, is the consumer is going to get screwed.
Yeah, but really, with American government, aren't they pretty much bought and sold by companies anyway?
Yes, entirely. That's why yes, entirely. That's the worry.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I mean, these companies are already running your country behind the scenes. If they're coming up and they're just going to take over. I mean, there's a great Canadian show we watched a few years ago, wasn't there, Shane? about companies running government and such.
What show are you talking about?
That was that where the kid come back in time. I can't remember the name of it. The great show. Got about 6 seasons, I think.
Now I'm interested. I have no idea. Continuum.
Continuum, that's
there
the
we
one.
Go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Great show. Anyone wants to... I think you had that as a pick of the week a couple of years ago, but for anyone, go back and check that out, Continuum, and see us. I think it's a good foretelling of what might be happening in America in sooner rather than later, in probably the next 10 or 20 years.
Yep,
we're trying to stage a comeback.
It already is the corporate Congress.
Yeah,
we're trying to stage a comeback.
Alrighty, well that's it for tech news. Moving on, we do have our skill of the month going on. First one up is Hunter, and currently we do have 6 people signed up, but technically only 5 because one of them is 200 mil XP.
I was going to say, J Mandy can't really compete on that one.
But Pern, you're in first place with 820k. Second place is Earth, of all people, with 50 XP, and then no one else registered.
But it is day one, remember.
That is right. It is day one. It is day one. And
Earth, you got he's giving me some competition there.
Watch out, man.
And on the topic of skill of the month, we also have the agility skill of the month, which you can sign up for. That one begins on July 17th. So that one will be fun to see with the
what I might
update.
do, I've put a bond up for first place on this one. if I do win it, carry that over to the agility one.
All
so,
right.
In fact, no matter where I come, if I lose, it's my fault, and if I win, I will. There will be a bond up for the agility one as well. So.
We were also going to put a bond up for the agility one, but I guess that means that our next bond for the August competition is also going to have a prize behind it as well.
Yep. If I win this one, you keep it, and if I don't win, well, I'll do the bond for my punishment for losing. I'll put another one up for agility as well. There you go.
Alrighty.
Yeah, well, that's how we should do skill of the month. You
get second place.
Lose,
you owe
pony
us.
up the dough.
Oh, that's great. All right, moving on to achievements of the week. Starting off, we got a good number of them this week, you guys. So first up is Thaxi with 120 Constitution on July 9th. Then we have Statebird with 99 Smithing. Then Mike, who returned to the game this past weekend, the co-owner of RSBANDB, got 99 Dungeoneering, his second 99 on July 9th. And then Zach Masta got 99 Firemaking also on July 9th.
Then we have Takis Fusio with 99 Woodcutting on July 7th. Goku SSJ Blue for 120 Slayer. Well done. A great skill I love. Zach Master again with 99 Woodcutting on July 5th. And Alex Peaks with 99 Ranged on July 4th.
Very nice. Then we have Yitzi with 99 Construction on July 4th. Alex Penix with 99 Slayer on July 4th. Durf Murph with 99 Invention on July 3rd. And Yitzi again with 99 Invention on the 3rd.
Nicely done. All right, so pick of the week wise. Earth had this as a pick of the week a number of years ago. Last year, I think, the piece of hardware. But this is now available for free on iOS. It's the Steam Link app, and it's not only for iOS, it's also for your Apple TV. So much so that if you have a Steam controller, you even have any controller, you pair it to your Apple TV, and, starting this fall, you'll be able to connect that Xbox controller to your Apple TV. So this means that you could, in theory, stream Rocket League from your computer over to your Apple TV and play it with a controller. And, I played some of these games with Steam Link, and, I made the fool's choice of trying to play Rocket League on my phone with the controllers that it puts up on the screen, and that just is not worth it. You want to use an actual controller for that game. But the frame rate, the delay, and the quality of the stream, and this was over Wi-Fi, was absolutely impeccable. It was playable, of all things, believe it or not. So if you have some kind of game that has a user interface that can be replicated successfully on a phone, and you're gonna have depending luck based on how the UI goes with porting and showing video on your phone to Steam Link. But, in my view, where this is really going to shine is starting this fall when you can connect your Xbox controllers to your iPad. And you'd be able to use your iPad and have that as a secondary screen for playing one of your games from your Steam library.
That's awesome.
Oh, snap. Cool.
Hence why this is the pick of the week right now, because starting this fall, you'll be able to connect an Xbox controller, or even if you have a standard controller now, you can hook up to your Apple TV. It just works. Or, if you're wanting to play some kind of clicker game maybe on your phone when you're up in bed or something and it's in your Steam library, you can do that too. So,
how far does that Steam Link, like the hardware part of it, actually go, Shane? Like if I had, say, my computer is in my office and the main house living room TV, it's like one room away, would that, even though it's behind a door, like
it's all over Wi-Fi. It's all over your network, so it doesn't matter as long as it's on the same network.
Well, this Okay, cool.
And there were some issues with getting the Steam Link app on the App Store because initially it did include a link to purchase games, which Apple didn't want because in their agreement you're not allowed to compete with the App Store. So Steam did fix that, and that's why now we got the iOS and Apple TV version. But I think the most interesting out of all of them is the Apple TV version, especially once you can connect that Xbox controller. So that's the pick of the week is Steam Link for iOS. And there's an Android version too, but that's been out a longer time.
Sounds great.
Very cool. It kind of left you a bit shocked there because you have an Apple TV and I'm sure you have an Xbox controller. When you update that this fall, you'll be able to run any game from your Steam library on that TV.
To be able to just sit on my TV and play it, that will be good. Because generally if I'm at the computer, I'm always on RuneScape. But sometimes if I'm just in the lounge, just picking up, doing something like that would be awesome.
I was just thinking of I could triple my screen size if I could play inside. That would be amazing. Play on the TV rather than my monitor. Wow.
Yeah, but it has to be a game that is in your Steam librry.
Well, almost all my games are in my Steam library.
Oh, there you
Besides RuneScape and, a few others. But yeah, I even have my ESO through Steam, which, people don't like, but we've talked about that before. It's
Indeed. Fine. All right, so what have we been up to? Let's start with you, Tennis.
Being stuck on an island, feeling like Gilligan, not being able to get around real well. But that's what I've been doing. With the main Junior still toiling away, preparing for his big DXP debut. So I've been mining the Anachronia and smelting the Elder Rune bars.
Oh yeah, there's a set of light Anachronia and dark Anachronia rocks on the island, which is a bit weird lore perspective wise.
Yeah, that's
someone would have had to die there then, huh? I didn't realize it was. I knew the Auracalcite was there. I didn't know that they had Anachronia there.
Yep.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's actually really cool. So yeah, but that's really, that's been it for me.
All right. How about you, Bryn?
Well, basically, I bought a bond to give to my Iron Man account, which plays a lot on OSRS now on mobile. I play on that a bit. I bought a bond on that to vote yes for the MTX going on to OSRS. Other than that, on the main account, basically concentrating on the island, chasing. Slayer's my favourite. I love achievements. So, getting 8 new souls to chase. I've got 3 of those so far, been doing that. And, if I'm AFKing the Black Warlocks. So they are, fantastic for that type of thing. That's basically all I've really been doing on the game this week. Chasing that trimmed comp cape, because the other one, the actual complainer's cape will never be worn again. That's gone into my player-owned house, never to be pulled out. But going for the trimmed comp now. Also, David took me through the ED 1, 2, and 3, got all the kills there. So just need Solak now, and I'll have Reaper back once I get Solak, which we'll be doing early next week.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. As for me on RS, I actually completed the entire Breaking the Storm event. This is the first ever currency event that I've completed to full because I just decided I was going to play more through this one because I figured it was monumental. But aside from that, this has been a very tight production week for the show. Started the time the update came out and didn't finish until about 20 minutes before. So everything this week has been show-wise related to Anachronia, of course. I don't think I really left that island. I only actually checked the farm 2 times this week, so that was a bit different on that regard. But I think my favorite's probably the agility there on the island, dare I say it. So that's mine. But I believe that's it for this episode of RSBANDB Update. A little bit longer than normal, but we are, of course, dealing with an expansion-sized update, so I figured that is A-OK. You guys have anything else before we go?
I just want to say thank you for the invite onto the show. It has been a great one. Love getting on and chatting and getting into debates. it's. I mean, it's always fun having sort of opposite views. So it's always good to hear the other side. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think people like to hear different sides, and sometimes, sometimes me and Shane just agree because, when something is just right there in front of you and it's, right there, you kind of have to agree with it. But yeah, so it's fun.
All right.
It
well,
was.
Just a reminder to everybody to nominate Update in the Golden Gnomes for the weekly bite. You want to use the nomination URL of youtube.com/RSBANDB. And we'll be back next week with another episode of RSBANDB Update. So in the meantime, everybody enjoy Anachronia, and we'll talk to you all next week. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.